friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy and I am the host of the show. And today, you guys, we're on episode 172, Keeping Up with Canada, part 6. Now, you guys, I cannot let go of this series. I hope that you guys are happy that I'm bringing that back for this season because there's a lot of shit going on with our country. We need to fucking talk about it. Okay, so whether you talk about that with me or to a guest with me, either way, every month I'm going to be talking to you about what is going on in our country because, again, I don't know if this is my age or if this is the time that we are living in, but there is shit changing and going on all over the place, and we are being distracted by other things, and policies are getting changed, words are getting changed, things are being implemented, laws are coming in. And most of us have no fucking idea, and rightfully so. Most of us are just trying to survive. As a conspiracy theorist, I'm going to say that's by design. But even if it's not, it's still what is actually happening, and we have to talk about it. So in this episode, I'm bringing back a very special guest returning from season 6, and we're going to talk about what is going on in the country and what happened during the Emergencies Act and what has happened now. We talk about the MAiDs program and the minor halt that we're seeing, but also our concerns, talking about this potential online harms bill. And then we just went off into a bunch of different areas when it comes to gender roles, the cares, the groups, virtual signaling. Like, y'all, me and my guest talked about everything. I don't want to ruin it. I want you guys to wait and see, even though you'll know from the title. But before we get into this absolute fire episode, I just want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, make sure to like, subscribe. Remember, I have a new YouTube page, so please go follow and find me at the Be Real Babe podcast. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, you can also turn on notifications, follow, and give your babe a review. That helps. Y'all that have, thank you guys so much. It literally, I want to cry every single time I see someone has put another 5 stars. You guys are incredible. If you don't think I'm 5 stars and you have some complaints, always welcome questions, comments, concerns. And if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at the Be Real Babe podcast, as well as on Pinterest. And you can find me, on Pinterest at the Be Real Babe podcast. And I started a new Facebook page since I've been hacked at the Be Real Collective. And the reason why it's Be Real Collective is because your girl is bringing more to that platform and to this one eventually. But let's just continue on with the podcast for now. Season 7, episode 172. You guys are not ready for this conversation, but let's get into it. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me today, I have a very special guest returning for his second time. I'd like to welcome Christopher from the Open Minds podcast back to the show. Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
Brandy, I'm so excited to be here, man.
Dude, so pumped.
Yeah.
I was listening to you this morning on your story. I was like, yeah, this is the vibe for today. I'm fucking knocking my mic down already. But guys, second time, I just wanted to shout out to your first episode with me was episode 163. So have a listen to that one because we got to talk of like fellow podcaster to podcaster, coast to coast, what that's been like. And it was great. So guys, make sure you go listen to that one to learn and go have a listen to Christopher. And on his Instagram, it's Open Minds Podcast, right?
Open Minds Pod, but yeah, I'll leave it in the show notes for sure.
Perfect. Excellent. And have a listen. And today, government Canadian talk, because I don't know, tell me if this is you. Is it age? Is it where we are? Or what is it? It seems insane in the political, like every single space just seems extreme right now. Is that just me?
Yeah. No, it's not you. I think I'm seeing it. I know I'm seeing it. We're seeing it everywhere. It seems it's like there's an attack on moderates. The Liberals, the NDP are too far left, and they're also pursuing policies, I think, that are government overreach, and I don't
Absolutely.
even know if that's on the right or the left. There's just so much government overreach. And then on the right, we have Pierre Poilievre. And,
Hmm.
if we believe the polls, he's going to win in 2025 by a landslide right
Yep.
now, but
Yep.
he will have such a tall order to undo a lot of what's already being put in place. And that's my real worry,
Yep.
that
I agree.
what's being put forward is going to become normative.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's scary.
Yes, yeah, and I do, and I always go back and forth, and this is one big thing I keep asking on my story because maybe I'm missing something, and I agree, our
Mhm.
systems are a mess, like 100%. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like there's kind of like a power when people do that because then they don't voice their opinion, and then
Yeah.
people that are very, more on one side, let's say, will go and vote, and that like we can't just tear it down overnight. So it's
Yeah.
like I love this idea of like fuck the system, goodbye government. These systems are trash. Like truly, like the way
Yeah.
cults sound as they start sounds great. Let's go into commune and live off the land. And but we do
Yeah.
need some sort of order, right? Of the chaos. There's always been hierarchy across everywhere, across times, across everywhere. There's always been some sort of need for like not control, but like a little bit of
Order. Yeah.
order in the chaos,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't feel like we could get rid of it. I think what we need to do is drastically be involved. And I think that's the
Hmm.
biggest part that Canadians have missed because we're Canadian.
Yeah.
We're a beautiful country. Everything is amazing, but yes, not to say the last 8 years, but let's just say the last 8 years, probably things have started to not be the country we all recognize. And I think again, is it our age or is it the political climate and the things that we've all gone through, and being like, this isn't okay anymore. What the
Yeah.
fuck? That's what I
Yeah.
feel like. I'm like, am I just getting older or is this
No,
where Canada is right now?
you're
I
right.
don't think
There's
I'm that old.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that I was listening to Joe Rogan and Dr. Phil, and there was a great part
So good.
where, yeah, where
Such a good
I think it
episode.
was Dr. Phil who said there's a war on conversation. And I never thought I would just like,
Said.
get goosebumps, but it's true. And something that both of our podcasts are trying to do is re-inject some level of conversation on really tough topics that can get awkward and uncomfortable for a lot
Yeah,
of people, but
totally.
we
It's
kind of
life.
need to be talking about it. Yeah, that's life,
That's
right?
life,
Like
man.
you can't just sweep too many things under the rug, because
Oh,
you leave it in the wrong hands and people will
yeah,
take advantage of that, right? That
totally.
vacuum.
Yeah, and like, sorry, Gen X. I know you think you could just like contour your way out of the awkward stage of being a teenager, and you're doing it a lot better than we are. But like, there's beauty in the uncomfortable and going through it, right? And so many people
Yeah.
these days want to avoid it, and I think that is so true because I think
Hmm.
that's where the pandemic kind of got me. Is like we couldn't have conversations about it, and I'm just a person that clearly talks, and so I'm like, what do you
Okay.
mean we can't talk about this? Like
Yeah.
this, I don't understand why this topic? Why can't I? And I'm looking around and like I worked in the cannabis industry. So I had people from all across the world, right, that
Hmm.
work in this one space. And
Yeah.
they're like all coming with different topics. So I really got to see a full, not just very Western trapped, right? So it was just very interesting to me. And then I'd start asking questions and people got really mad. And I was like, I think that is when the true attack on conversations. My girlfriend said what some
Hmm.
event that she thought is where everything changed. And I said, you know what changed everything? When Don Cherry said, you people, and he got fired.
Mm,
I feel
right.
like we
Right.
fell through a vortex or somewhere where it was just like all of a sudden it was very like fast forward to attack on speech and
Yeah.
difference of opinions and like what happened to agree to disagree but we could still be friends,
Yeah.
like, or not even
I,
friends, like,
yeah.
right? So that's what that's
Yeah.
awesome. That was a really good episode. I only watched half of it, but Dr. Phil came with some heat and I used to not be his biggest fan and I'm like, hmm, I can fuck with this episode. I can fuck with a lot of things that he's saying. But back to like the Pierre Polyev
Yeah.
thing because I think that's important. I
Yeah.
do think that is he's going to no matter what disappoint people if he does get in because he does have a huge list of things to have to change. But it's
Hmm.
like, so then what are we supposed to do? That's back to my original point. I keep asking, what are we supposed to do then? What is it that we're supposed to do if we just say fuck the government, all chaos? What does that actually look like? Like
To
in
me,
right?
yeah.
Like what does that look
Yeah.
like? What do you think?
So I think a couple things. I think we first of all we need to restart conversations about awkward
Mhm.
topics and be
Yep.
more bold with them and be more vociferous with them and have them everywhere,
Mhm.
um, and openly talk about it. Now I'm talking from like I'm a guy for years. I shut my own opinions down because I didn't want to rock any boats. And years later, I realized that was always the wrong decision. There was never a right decision where
Mm,
that was a good idea.
fair.
It was always the bad decision, right? So whether, you're sitting at a table and people are talking about whatever politics and you're just being quiet, not good. People are talking about climate change and you have a different opinion, not. There's never a situation where being quiet on these issues is ever a good thing. Now, of course,
Mm.
people will say, well, if you have extreme opinions and you're a racist, whatever, yeah, of course. But 99% of people are not that.
It's not,
Um,
no. Yeah.
so I think that there's a war on conversation, to Dr. Phil's point. So I think that's the one way we can start is by having conversations and having them more normalized, and bake that into our day to day, right? Like,
Yes.
just if someone says something, be okay, be comfortable saying, I don't fully agree with that. I don't fully agree with what you're saying, and tease it out and say, I don't have all the facts either. But
Hmm.
just from my perspective as a layperson looking at this, I don't agree with schools saying that they would respect a child's gender identity and hide that from the parents.
I
I
don't
don't
love that.
I don't have kids and I don't like that.
I don't like that. And
So
I have cats, same. And I do too.
right,
And I always think it is important because also it's a disservice to yourself and to the people
right,
around you because you
yeah,
could be holding on information that they don't have and vice
yeah,
versa. You can learn. And if you're open and you let that ego down to being like, hey, this is what I
yeah,
know, but I'm always like this person that's like, this is what I know, but I don't know shit about fuck. But these are the things that I've collected in the experiences and the people that I know. And what's
yeah,
yours? And let's come
yeah,
together, right? And there's
yeah,
definitely times in my life I have not always been like this. This is 100% a
yeah,
growth thing.
yeah,
But it just feels so much better and collaboration happens and you learn and you grow and you see a different side of the coin. And I feel like,
yeah,
unfortunately, most Canadians right now, especially with inflation and all that, they're just
yeah,
working and fucking surviving and they just see the headlines and they just
yeah,
see the topics at the top that are either the clickbaits or the whatever and
hmm,
they don't dive in and then they go forward and they talk in their interactions and
hmm,
they build this echo chamber and that
yeah,
is that. And I'm not saying I wasn't guilty of it. I'm no longer that, but and then
sure,
you can't have these open conversations with these people because they're
yeah,
stuck in this like idea. Again, been one of those people. And so I completely
yeah,
agree with you. The first start is just being uncomfortable and working
hmm,
through and do that with the people closest to you that you're safest with,
exactly,
right? Like that's where you should be able
exactly,
to be like, hey, like we don't like in my home, we don't agree on chemtrails. Okay. I'm a
yeah,
firm believer that they exist. And Gret's like, yeah. And I was like, every single thing is a chemtrail. And then I've dialed back. And now I'm like, okay, I can see that not everything is that. And then he'll be like, I can see how you see that. And even if we can come to the middle ground of it's probably not good for us to breathe, regardless if it's on purpose or not. The air
yeah,
traffic is like, so you can come
yeah,
to that. And that's a safe space to do that. And then you're like,
right,
okay, cool. And then both of us are like, going forward with a different thought of like, okay, maybe I am seeing a little bit more of this, or like, oh, maybe these
yeah,
are a little bit different. And then I'm also like being like, okay, girl, there's also like nature and clouds are a thing, you know? So
yeah,
I think that having those conversations open you up to more info. And I
yes,
just think that's where we need to go. I love that. And that's why I want to get on conversations like with you and all the
yeah,
guests that I have, because more of these conversations, more that people start to see it's normal to have these
yeah,
kind of conversations. Not being afraid to disagree, I
yeah,
think is the biggest thing. And it's like
100%.
people can emotionally regulate. I think that's the biggest thing is that they hear something and then they're just like immediately trying to figure out how that's like against them
Mhm.
or when
Yeah,
really it's like not. it's
yeah,
it's a definite ego place, right? It's like always being like people are really not out to get you. They're usually just projecting their insides. So
yeah.
like just don't worry. And you know that in your comment section and I know that in
Oh,
my
yeah.
DMs.
Yeah, yeah, you've seen it for
I
sure.
have
It's pretty
definitely
wild.
have. But and I think that that is the one thing I do will say I do respect about Pierre is that he answers questions, whereas I feel like the current government like does this like dance around and like doesn't really answer questions. And I'm
Yeah,
hoping that that is one thing he'll continue to do if he gets in office is to actually like come up with real answers so that we can hold him to those things, not just being so we're doing things because it's inclusive and like, well, what does that fucking mean? Like,
yeah,
let's say like lightly touching, even though this is going backwards, the online harms bill, like that's potentially
yeah,
coming out here. And what does that mean? Yes, obviously I want children to be protected. That is no fucking question. But what
yeah,
does that mean? Am I going to go to jail? Are you going to go to jail? I know that's fine.
Yeah.
We can be cellmates and side by side, but really, what
Yeah.
does this mean? Right? And then we're being censored on what we can say and what the news is reporting.
It's a
What does
scary
that mean for
time.
the future?
Yeah, it's a
I don't want to
scary
be a
time. I
conspiracy
remember
theorist, but
No, you're right. I mean, I need to go back on this, but I do remember
so
there
yes.
was like a bill that passed where it was like if you're a podcaster, you need to register with the government, and it's a whole thing now, which is wild. But getting back to Pierre, there's so this is the thing about government, which I find a bit strange. We're not delving into the tough topics, and that requires a lot of understanding of the social, psychological, mental health, emotional impacts this is going to have on people. So Pierre says some really interesting things, like he's going to axe the carbon tax, which I think most Canadians,
Can agree with.
especially right now, are just like, no more taxes, like,
I can't do this.
yeah. But
It's cheaper to go to
this,
McDonald's, man. Like what?
right? Yeah, exactly, right. But the cynic in me says, but government is in it to make money.
It's a
So
business for
it's a
sure.
business, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like government doesn't earn money like you and I. They don't
No.
they're not like they're not like a profit loss. No, they're like
Mm-mm.
we take money through taxation. So if he's axing a tax, like the cynic in me says, "Oh, that needs to be remade somewhere else."
Where's this money
Because
coming from?
where's that
Mm-hmm.
money coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my kind of worry, that there's
That's
going to
fair.
be hidden taxes or hidden lobbyists or some type of waste,
Moved.
because
Just moving
right,
around.
because
Yeah.
exactly, because as well intentioned a person is entering parliament, you've got caucus who's
Yeah.
raised millions of dollars for you to be right there. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't think that those salespeople are going to be like, and you're going to do what with my money? Like, no,
Exactly.
no, no,
Yeah. You're gonna
no.
axe what? My
Yeah,
bottom dollar?
exactly. So, I
Uh,
am a bit cynical, but
and we
maybe
should
it's
be.
because it's just how government works, right? Like it's
Yep.
just the
Yep.
functioning of government.
Yep.
But then again, back to your point about like the online bills that are being passed with royal assent, it is scary to think that these were just ideas not too long ago at a liberal caucus convention,
Mm-hmm.
and they immediately denounced it. They said, these are just ideas that we have, and now it's 2024, and it's
Here they
like,
are.
here they are. And
It's on the
where
government
there's smoke,
website.
yeah,
Like,
like where there's smoke there's fire, and it's scary to
mhm.
see what might happen, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where I kind of worried and got clued into where things could lead to and what we're being told versus what really happened. So let's tie that nicely into, let's say, the Emergencies Act. In my
Yeah.
opinion, that was one of the biggest historic moments in Canadian history where majority of people seen one thing and then
Yeah.
seen something different on the media. Like I knew that
Yes.
because I got into American politics for some because it seemed a lot easier to pay attention to the like Trump Biden bullshit where I'm like, that I can't look at home yet. I'm not ready. So I
Yeah.
started down there. It was the
Yeah.
pandemic. Leave me alone, guys. What else was I fucking supposed to do? Tiger King ran out. Like I had something else to watch, So it's like, but then I started seeing again, like, and I'm not saying either one of them are good. I'm not saying shit, but I would see
Yeah.
stuff on the media about Trump, and then I would do my own research and I'd watch him, and I was like, I'm not fully getting like, okay, I understand some things, but I'm not fully getting the majority of the hate. And that's where I started thinking
Yeah.
like that's when I started falling down all these rabbit holes and seeing where the media and that everything just leads up to a handful of companies. And I was like, okay, this starts to make sense. What's happening at home? And as I was trapped at home working, which is totally fine in the pandemic, because I was like so glad that I
Yeah.
could watch the live feeds of the Emergencies Act, it was the same thing
Yeah.
where again, being an unvaxxed Canadian, I was like bawling and like, wow, people are standing up for us. This is amazing. These are
Yeah.
amazing human beings. These are heroes. These are people like I feel so validated and seen and heard and like so alone. And now our country's coming together. And then I look at the news and it's like right wing, extremist, Nazi, anti vaxxed. And I was like, what? And
Yeah.
like, I'm like, this is unconstitutional what they're doing. I remember watching like Kristen Nagel, boots on the ground, pregnant,
Hmm.
fighting the people that we pay to protect us from people that are not protecting. It really blew my mind. And then now, again, we come years later, and what, just at the end of February, deemed unconstitutional by by the judiciary, I can't say that word, English sucks, system, which,
Yeah.
hey, that's awesome because I truly didn't expect that because I was like, everything's corrupt.
Yeah.
Everything's corrupt. And to see that, I was like, that made me feel a little more hopeful about the
Hmm.
future, but it's always years later.
Exactly. Like the
It's like,
federal, right? Like the federal courts making the decision back in December about the Emergencies Act being
was it December?
unconstitutional, I believe it was. That was like a vindication of what so many people were saying at the time in 2022, lost their jobs, lost their families and friends. You know,
Mm-hmm.
friendships and relationships were permanently destroyed for
Damaged.
some,
Mm-hmm.
and damaged. And some people can't come around for Christmas as a result because they refused
Still.
the vaccine. I actually
Mm-hmm.
asked on my my real ones, I said, oh, like knowing what you know now, would you still take the vaccine? And like
Mm-hmm.
90% of people said no, and there were like hundreds of people who voted on that. So um I think a lot of us were compelled because we had to
Mm-hmm.
keep our jobs, we had to travel for
Totally.
funerals or weddings,
Mm-hmm.
and the government just said, yeah, like unless you're vaccinated. And it was so wild to see this federal judge in December, I believe, basically say, yeah, this was completely unconstitutional, because the director of CSIS said that the Freedom Convoy posed no national security threat. The director of CSIS said that the province of Alberta and Ontario, where the blockades were at US Canada border crossing, said, we don't need a National Emergencies Act because we can take care of this. And by the
Mm-hmm.
time it was enacted, the blockades had come
It's
down.
done. Yep. I
So,
remember
like,
watching this live, and I'm like, I'm being
yeah.
so gaslit and punked. Like, Ashton, where are you? Is Canada being punked? Is this a, like, I know it's a world stage, but like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm just watching this, and I was like, this is insanity. And then, like
Madness.
you said, there's so many people, like, obviously, because I was very vocal and being unvaccinated through the whole thing, I've had lots
Mhm.
of conversations in my DMs because people feel safer there than in public, right? And
Right, right.
from the beginning, it was majority, like a lot of people said they didn't want to from the beginning, and I understood all their reasons, and I still to this day understand, and I feel very blessed that I didn't get pushed
Yeah.
like other people did, and I understand that privilege that I had with the career that I had, the location
Yeah.
that I was like, but it was also hard. Like, we had lots of stuff we had to give up. We've had friends, like,
Mhm.
holidays don't feel the same anymore because you're like, things were weird, you know. And then it's like, for
Mhm.
me, I'm one big thing that I've been mulling over lately is you go to then go have a big event. Let's say now we're getting married, right? I got engaged at Christmas, so we're talking about the wedding, and it's like,
Congratulations.
thank you. And so it's like
Yeah.
talking about invites, and then you have to sit and think, like, when I was at my most vulnerable and terrified here, I didn't know I was being
Mhm.
called a murderer. I was so confused. I was like just so
Yeah.
mentally torn and depressed. And no, there's certain people that weren't there for me in that time, and sharing things against my opinion and saying these people are terrible. Now I'm supposed to turn around and invite them to the happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with that. And I know a lot of people are feeling the same in my DMs with the same thing of being like, I get it and forgive and like have compassion. People were acting out of fear, and I totally get it. But I
Yeah.
also, under the other side, where I was like, I felt very alone sometimes in that.
Yeah.
And um, until the convoy, we had our friends, but we didn't realize across
Yeah.
Canada how many people felt the same, whether they took it or not. So
Mhm.
it really just, it's so interesting now looking back and being like, if we just had more compassion and had these awkward conversations and pushed through that, I can
Mhm.
agree to disagree with you and still have respect, and you have your freedom of your body and your speech and all that. Why can't I have the grace of mine? Instead, you're telling me
Mhm.
mine is killing people. Do we not see the difference there? Like,
Mhm.
I never told you what to do, not you. Like, I just said
Right.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to do it, and please respect that. And it was
Mhm.
just such a wild time. And I feel like the media and the government funneled a lot of that behavior and supported
Yeah.
it. Like, what other country is their leader tell somebody, you don't have a choice. You shouldn't sit beside someone on a plane. You don't have the right
Yeah.
to sit on a plane by a vaccinated person,
Yeah.
especially when this has all come out, even though a lot of us knew this before, to not be correct. There's no
Mhm.
apology. There's no reverse. When, like, that's a whole other talk. When is this guy going to be held responsible? But even so, the media fueled that too. They said the
You know,
trucker convoy was a
yeah.
Nazi thing, and it's
Oh,
like, no,
Jesus.
it wasn't. Like, what?
It's I don't even know where they, actually for one of my reels, I did the the nerdy thing of going through the cbc.ca's website, and I searched everything Freedom Convoy, and not one single article was even neutral, let alone positive. It was 100% negative. And I wrote the CEO of CBC and so many other people saying, you are our national broadcaster. You're not a private broadcaster where you've got your shareholders, they fund you, you can do whatever you want. You're our
Mhm,
national. That means our public dollars are going into you. And
mhm,
Canadians hold you to a higher standard. And I even juxtapose it with their own journalistic standards and practices on their website, which
mhm,
says that, they are supposed to remain impartial, they're supposed to remain unbiased. And
mhm.
like every single article was like, these truckers are terrible, they're terrorists, that everything was so negative. And I'm like, help
How?
me square this circle. What is going on here? Like, this is madness. But I also think too, it's like, I think that we have to stop putting stock in the media and
Mhm,
government to right the wrongs. Civil society,
fair.
we as individuals tell the government what to do.
Yeah,
They
we
cannot
forget that.
tell us,
We
right?
forget
Like,
that.
we
Fucking
forget.
Canadians.
Right? Like, I am not looking to Rosemary Barton. I'm sure she's a
No,
wonderful person to tell
sure.
me about public policy. No, no, no. I
Yes.
tell you what's important to me. You being
Yeah.
media, I don't respect, I don't trust our, Jagmeet Singh, Pierre,
Mm,
or Trudeau to be these thought leaders on
no,
social policy. Like,
no.
you're just an elected politician.
Yes,
You're not a thought leader. The civil society, we have the power. That's
we do.
why I say through our conversations, these politicians are always looking for their window of what's acceptable that they can put to their caucus that can get them votes and get them funding. And I think Trudeau really dug his heels in against the Freedom Convoy because he saw
Mhm.
these truckers undermining his government or undermining his authority.
Yep.
And he knew maybe his funders wouldn't like that, and they have to be a strong government and rein them in and get
Yeah.
rid of these
Be in control.
unvaccinated. Yeah. And not realizing that, by the way, it's civil society. I think CTV did a poll, and it's like, whatever, 78% of Canadians didn't agree with everything truckers did, but empathized with their plight. And I
Yeah.
thought, perfect example of the disconnect of government and
Mhm.
civil society.
Yeah, and it's like they talk out of their ass and like and
Yeah.
too I same thing when they do the same thing with the presidents and like they have a
Yeah.
whole like it's a business. There's levels and layers. And so I think too
Yeah.
like yes, conversations need to happen because look at how different people might have been and more empathetic and compassionate if we had these conversations at the beginning. If people were willing to listen to a different side, understand why
Yeah.
people did or didn't take it on both fucking sides. Like I remember
Yeah.
sitting there going like, "Okay, unvaccinated people, stop. Please stop hating, stop like
Yeah.
this is not." And again, I had to the place, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I didn't wish harm and hate against everyone that did that to me. Absolutely I did. That's
Sure.
a part of your growth journey of being like, well, you want me dead, well fuck you too, like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want you alive. And then I was like, that's not it, like not that I
Yeah.
did, but you know what I mean, like having that resentment. And I was like, maybe if I could just go at it on a compassionate level and share my story of why I
Mhm.
didn't take it at the height of it, being like, y'all, I have my
Yeah.
fertility is on by a fucking thread and I would like to
Yeah.
hold on to that thread. And then some other people were like, okay, hold up, okay, maybe I should back off a little bit. Like if it was me and that was my only thing, would I want someone to be pushing? And then the conversations I hope started happening inside people's brains of being like, I maybe there's other reasons why people wouldn't want to do this, you know. And if we could
Yeah.
have had those conversations at the beginning, maybe it
Yeah.
wouldn't have taken the trucker convoy to break everyone out of this weird dystopian one side, other side. What side are you on? You have to, you know,
Yeah.
label it. It just became very everything is label based these last couple of years. I'm
Mhm.
like, that is not life, y'all. Life is
Yeah.
very I'll have if I had a fucking one of those label printers, I'd have a million labels all over me. Like
Yeah.
humans are a little bit more than just putting them in boxes, which is what oddly enough they're trying to be. This inclusivity move is actually putting people further into smaller boxes
Yeah.
instead of opening those up and seeing the nuance and the gray and seeing that everyone has a different lens that they're seeing it through.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't discredit one or the other. It doesn't necessarily mean right or wrong, right? It's like when people say your truth, I
Definitely.
know it's annoying, but there's like it's like more your story. Your story is going
Yeah.
to dictate what lens you look through in certain situations at certain times in your life. And people that can
Yeah.
emotionally regulate that don't project it as much. They, okay, this person pissed me off. Why? Instead of being like, "Pow!" you're shit.
Yeah,
Which we all do.
yeah. Of course, and we all should have like those moments, to
Yeah,
let it all out
totally.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But it just reminds me, I know this sounds like a flippant way of looking at it, but
Mm,
there was no, and I had this conversation with a few people, and I said, there was this weird time where we were all okay giving up our bodily autonomy, and it was in the service of what we believed to be the greater good.
mhm.
And I remember all of us just watching like the numbers every day when government would come out with those numbers. But it just reminded
Abysmal.
me of like, yeah, like the pro-choice movement, my body, my choice. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, so in this case, we don't have a choice, many of
Yep.
us, because
Mhm.
of our work, because of our travel,
Whichever.
whatever.
Mhm.
And we don't have a choice. So where's that argument there? And then people might say, well, there's a national emergency and there's a global pandemic, etc. Definitely, I hear that. But I
Sure.
think that looking back, and I said this at the time, and it's weird on social media, even now, if you
Mhm.
say, as we both know, if you
Mhm.
say the word COVID in your story, you get a flag, you get a warning, I get messages saying
So
this is not
banned.
eligible for monetization. It's like they don't pump it out to as many
Nope.
people. Like, so people found ways around it. And it's weird to think that there's this coordinated approach that we can't talk about COVID like in a
Yeah.
very open way. And it's been 4 years. Like, why can't we talk about it?
You want to talk about my strikes on YouTube, my friend? Because they are flot, and I have been in trouble for saying it. And all I did was saying, "Hey, I don't know anything about anything, but this is
Yeah.
weird." And why? Like, I had someone that
Can't
vax
say
in.
that, Brandy. You
You
can't say
can't
this
say
is weird.
that. You can't say it's weird. It's special. That's what my
Yeah.
mom used to say, anyways. You're special. No, I'm just kidding. But what I what I didn't love is like how do we grow without having different opinions? How do we
Yeah.
grow and learn and move forward and progress in a good, cultivated manner
Hmm.
without having these conversations? And to your point about the government and your story today about, it's interesting, these people that get put into these places that aren't
Yeah.
elected officials don't really have any reason to be there, and then run with some of these ideas, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden now it's changing into policy, and all of a sudden we're just like supposed to deal with it because all of a sudden this person says to do it. Like, for
Yeah.
example, like in our area, like Adrian Dix, Bonnie Henry, like they're not doing a good job managing our healthcare system. That
Mm.
they cannot admit. It's like if they bring the unvaccinated healthcare workers back, it's like they're admitting they were wrong, and all the lawsuits that are currently open are going to be lost. So they're going to hold
Wow.
on to that, in my
Wow.
opinion, until those lawsuits are closed, and then maybe bring them back. Because isn't bringing them back kind of being like, maybe we were wrong,
Wow.
and kind of a way, that's how we kind of look at it. And now the
Yeah.
push to having all of the naturopathic chiropractors, like there's other bills going on in BC that are going to be silencing medical practitioners, natural allopathic. They're going to be now regulated under the same boards as some of these like Western medicines. Like there's a lot of weird things happening
Wow.
in the background. And again, to my point earlier, is that everyone's so busy looking at the headlines and getting so upset
Yeah.
about the things that the media wants you to say, like what's happening in other countries. And it's like, motherfuckers, listen,
Yeah.
one of our friends had to leave twice to the States to get cancer treatment, you guys. She is a very strong, healthy, cross-fitting woman that has no real reason to have this and has to leave because our country, that they, you want to get the kicker, Christopher, they knew this 10
Yeah.
years ago. They knew this 10 years ago that this is where it was going to be. I think they say close to now 1 in 2 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their life, as opposed to every 1 in 4 or 5. And they knew this 10 years ago, and they've done
Wow.
nothing to fix it. This is why they're speaking out. And it's like, it's frustrating when the media and these journalists aren't bringing light to this shit, because this shit is what matters, because this stuff can spread further. I can only say so much on a banned platform, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
we need the true media to
Yeah.
talk about this stuff and what's happening. But it's like, again, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds.
Yeah.
So, like it just makes me so fucking sad and upset that this happens nonstop all the time. And we get banned for saying that, for sharing people's experiences that are true. Like, I don't care what your data says. These are real people. Their stories
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
You don't want to interview them because it goes against your data, not you. But, you know,
Definitely. I think that there's and we both know there is an agenda. And
yep,
listen, I get it to an extent, right? These media companies, they've got bills to pay. They're a
totally.
business.
Yep.
Um, they've got a board of directors, and they set, the agenda, and
Mhm.
they really delve into things that get people riled up, because as we both know, what sells is anger, fear, hate.
Yep.
You post
Divide.
something about the Israel Palestine war, and you are going to get a lot of views and a lot of hate.
Mm-hmm.
But views gets these social media algorithms going because
Mm-hmm.
it means that you're coming back. Now, if you were to instead interview someone who, had a bad experience with a transitional surgery,
Mm-hmm.
um, or someone who had a Botox injury,
Mm-hmm.
that's very important. But will enough Canadians click on it? Because do enough Canadians know about it? And I think our our joint issue is there's an opportunity for our public broadcaster to make some of these issues more normal
Mm-hmm.
because of their platform, because of their reach, and they're willingly choosing not to. And that's the great travesty. I actually wrote CBC with a pitch for a show, and I've got
Love
a few
that.
friends who used to work in CBC, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't hold it against them.
Yeah.
But
Try not to anyway.
right, and I said, listen, sign me on for like a six
Yeah.
episodes. That's it, an hour.
Totally.
I can talk about whatever, and if after 6 episodes you say, like, what, this isn't us and this isn't what we want to do, then cancel it. But
Mm-hmm.
let's try this out, and let's move the yardstick. And to be honest, forget about me. This is about reshaping the CBC, because if Poilievre gets elected in 2025 and it's a landslide, like, I don't want to know
Mm-hmm.
what hate the CBC is going to get. They're
Oh
going to
yeah.
they're going to be at such a risk for less funding.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going to just come out against them regularly. So whatever they can do to help start changing and shifting their image,
Might
why
be the
not?
time. Might be the time. And you know
Yeah,
what's
it might
interesting?
be the
It's like
time. Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
really suck for the people at the very beginning that were like, "Oh, Pierre's got nothing. Like he's
yeah,
never going to win," and really like trashed him just like, and I'm not saying Trump's going to, but I always find that
yeah,
super interesting and how they
yeah.
like try to link them together. And
Mm-hmm.
like that one conversation, I think he was actually in the Okanagan where that one media guy was just going like, "Why are you?" And it's like this is where I'm going about the labels, right? It's like, why can't
Yeah,
there be nuance? Like for anything, like why can I
yeah.
think that don't shove the vaccine down my throat and everyone should have a choice? And why can I think that and then also question its contents? And let's say like big pharma, can I understand that there's a place for it? Western medicine, absolutely. Why
Yeah.
aren't we talking about alternatives and things that have been around so long, like Chinese medicine and all those practices that if you
Mm-hmm.
hear people for the most part, that's where they get the most healing is these
Yeah.
older, more natural modalities. Like I can understand like two truths can exist at the same time. Matter of fact, I could say like 18 truths can probably exist at a time or more. But I
Mm-hmm.
think what it needs to happen is that people not to be so rigid and be more open about this. And then you learn so much, right? Like I was like dead set against plastic surgery. Like no matter what, again, do what you want with your body. But like to me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started diving into a little bit more and understanding why people get it, even though that's something that I wouldn't want. And now I'm like, okay, I understand on a different level. And I opened myself up to understanding why people want to get it or whatever. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to grow that way until you open up to that. And I just feel like
Yeah.
so many people lately feel like they have to fall into these labels or boxes. Like I have to be a left liberal, inclusive, da da da. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to say that to be kind to an individual, right? I don't
Yeah.
need to label myself as a trans ally and to be nice to them and respect that their existence. You know,
Right.
I feel like everything's so for clicks and views and virtual signaling.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. There's a lot of
Yeah.
that going on. And I feel like these figureheads, like you said, they look at all these talking points and how can I win? Trudeau got it with cannabis. Just kidding.
Yeah. There's this thing called you're totally right about that. There's a couple things I want to pick up on. So
Sorry. Yes,
plastic
go.
surgery, you're so right. I mean, body dysmorphia is a thing. A lot of people don't realize it. If I see a very attractive woman, that woman may not consider herself attractive at all.
Mhm.
um, there are bodybuilders who are huge who still think they're very skinny or overweight or
Yep.
fat or
Not muscly
not big,
enough.
not
Yep.
muscly enough. And
Yep.
there is body dysmorphia, so that leads them down a path of extreme dieting, extreme cutting, extreme working out. And in some cases, yeah, plastic surgery. Michael Jackson, there was an
Mm-hmm.
interview with him where he said, no matter how many times I look in the mirror, I'm never satisfied.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that is a real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something people forget. People don't wake up one morning and say, I want to get a nose job, I want plastic surgery. It's, over time, body dysmorphia, but all of that can be unlearned. A lot of that
Mhm.
you can feel very comfortable with yourself, and I think
Mhm.
all of us can be much more comfortable with ourselves. Um,
Yes,
I think the
absolutely.
other thing is that politicians are looking for something called Overton's window, which is this really, it makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just looking for what's acceptable,
Mhm.
what's unacceptable, and what's truly unacceptable.
Mhm.
Um, and they're like trying to figure out, okay, within this acceptable, unacceptable range, where
What can
can
I
I
play
move the
with?
yardstick to get my funding and sell
Yep.
my pitch to the caucus? So
Yep.
I think that's why like there's policies that are approved and policies that'll never get approved, at least anytime soon.
Yep.
Um, but it's just the sadness of our politics, and how do we get what we consider acceptable
Mhm.
into the realm of more politicians, not because of their parties, but because of the power they hold once they're in office, right?
Yeah. And I think too, a big like open the conversation, then people getting involved at the lower levels and working their way up, like if you're
Yeah.
a parent and you're concerned what's happening in the school board, be a part of it. Go to the
Yeah.
parent teachers, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
we can't, I think we're all understanding that no matter what systems there, we're still going to have to use them at some time. And the way
Yeah.
to start changing them is to get involved in the ones that probably directly affect you the most to start with. So if you're a parent, I say that's a good place to start, like
Yeah.
for me, I'm not really into politics, but what I'm going to do is I love podcasting, I love talking, I love connecting. So to me, that's ways bringing awareness as like a journalist should, and
Yeah.
that's the piece in the puzzle. That's what I feel like, but I know there's people that do want to make a change that are starting to get into politics because they are tired of seeing
Hmm.
that. I don't think we could just crumble the system. I think we need to start
No.
working our way through it,
Yeah.
holding people accountable. We as Canadians have not hold our politicians accountable for dick fuck all. I mean, we see all
Yeah.
the stuff that's coming out lately, but even just like getting involved, right? Like so many people will just vote like in BC, I felt like most people vote NDP because that's just BC, right? When I was
Hmm.
in Alberta, everyone voted conservative because that's Alberta, which great.
Yeah.
Danielle Smith is a fucking legend. Like I wish I was
Yeah.
living in Alberta while under her reign, like and
Yeah.
I've constantly my spouse works there. We're constantly keeping our eyes. Like I love
Hmm.
BC, but it is one of the worst politically, and it is not my favorite, and it is very
Yeah.
expensive, and I really do love where she's taking that province. So can it turn around? I don't know, but like I don't
Hmm.
know, it's just people need to get involved in what does that mean to be a conservative in your area. We need to get to that level of around us. Like our
Hmm.
MP that serves for us, she's amazing. Tracy, she is out there, and I'm constantly seeing her bring up the stuff that I know people in my area have been bringing to her. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what this is. You work for your constituents, you go there and you
Yeah.
speak on behalf of them. And if you have
Hmm.
enough people doing that with the trueness in their heart and they're truly listening to everybody and bringing it there, and they're bringing it all there, theoretically we should be in a good place, like and listening to everybody, right? If you bring everyone to the table.
100%.
It's just not happening though. There's just one big loud voice that it's like this is how I'm doing things, and that coalition does not, like maybe some of this stuff can't be reversed, but maybe the insanity can stop progressing. Like maybe Pierre
Hmm.
won't keep putting these crazy things in,
Yeah.
like maybe he'll have more of an ability to be like, no, that's nuts, don't do
Hmm.
that. Where Trudeau's like, how can I make money off of that? Or I mean, you're
Hmm.
amazing, Trudeau. By the time this launches, in case the online harms bill, please don't
Yeah.
arrest me. I'm just kidding.
Right, right. We all love Trudeau, right?
Yeah, it was so much. I was like, if you guys start seeing me saying it's opposite day, it means that the law went in and I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah. You
I'm not
know,
I'm not suicidal. I'm not, no, I'm just kidding. I don't
no,
talk about
yeah.
Epstein.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it is wild. One thing that I want to start doing as the next kind of wave with the podcast is doing
mhm.
focus groups
Ooh,
in person. So I had this idea. I pitched it to a group. I don't know, hopefully they'll get back to me. They haven't got back to me yet, but I'm always curious about, there's a way to approach these topics, and I think it's through curiosity, trying to understand, right?
yes.
And so I think there's like, so I've always wondered about anti-racism programs, because at many workplaces it's mandated you must
Mhm.
attend anti-racism programming. And so I thought to myself, well, do these actually work? Because I read a really interesting article recently, which was so fascinating, and these authors said the reason why anti-racism programs generally don't work is because they generally are based on attacking it through knowledge. So we generally see it as like spreading awareness, spreading understanding of our differences based on lived experience. The reality is that most everyone if you're attending an anti-racism program, you're generally open to expanding your horizons.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are truly racist, who truly don't like you for your skin color or your gender or ethnicity, they are hardened, and the only way they will actually understand it is through some type of psychological intervention, because they actually get some sadistic joy out of putting you down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so this is seen like United States and Canada, when an area becomes too one group over
Mm-hmm.
another,
Yep.
people leave. Right? And that's like they get enjoyment out of not being around people of a different ethnicity. They get more
Mm-hmm.
enjoyment being around their own people,
Same.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And so like um the, the reason why anti-racism programs don't work is because they don't acknowledge that enjoyment that people get
Mm-hmm.
in putting someone else down
Yep.
or othering someone else. I thought that's interesting because as much as we want to programize anti-racism, you can't erase it
Mm-mm.
through these anti-racism programs. So I thought to myself, okay, how about I reach out to um, members of the Black community here in Toronto and bring them together and talk about this and say, like, hey, what are your thoughts attending anti-racism programs? Have you noticed any changed behavior
Mm-hmm.
in the way in
Mm-hmm.
which people treat you?
Yep.
Um, and my guess and assumption is people will probably say what I've experienced, which is there's no change really.
Mm-mm.
And I'm sensing there's even resentment. Like, why am I having to learn about indigenous people
Mm-hmm.
again? Why am I
Mm-hmm.
having to learn about black people? Why am I have to
Yep.
learn about Christopher's, like the brown people and like, why am I here? Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to know about this. And so
Yep.
I just wonder, like, there's a dark side to the outcomes of anti-racism programs when we mandate it.
Yes.
Um, and if we do focus groups and talk about it in a very structured way, could that actually help us normalize these conversations more?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And because again, it's people's experiences, right? Like you can
Yeah,
collect data, you can say that, but it's like, how do you feel? Is this? And
yeah,
to me, I think that's such a good point. And also to add to that, when you're going into something like that, are you innately then telling yourself inside subconsciously, like, okay, am I a racist? Like,
yeah,
if I'm
right?
having to take this, am I like, okay, so you're just saying innately everybody is, so everyone needs to take this? Like, shouldn't that be something that's more to like directed as like focused learning? Like, say you're at work
Mhm,
and you've displayed that. That would make sense as on an individual level, like, hey, there's
mhm.
been some reports of you saying some pretty nasty things to
Yeah,
these individuals. Let's take you through this and like walk you through. But again, having the psychology understanding of why that's
mhm,
happening, maybe
yeah,
not an anti-racism course, more as like some therapy for that individual on like a
yeah,
counseling level as to why that's happening, because just spitting information at them when they have a bias in their mind and they're blocked into that, because that's true racism, not just everyone just saying everything is racist, like
yeah,
you said, it's not everyone. So is that cultivating people that everybody is just innately racist, so you guys all have to take this training, where it's
yeah,
like, could we just
exactly.
maybe hone in on the individuals and what, to your point, why are they being that, what's the psychology behind that, and
Yeah,
teaching that, maybe then people are going to be like, huh, I am
mhm,
like that because of this. Oh my goodness. I'm maybe not
mhm,
just this person and hate this person because that's who I am. It's kind of how I was raised or my environment. And I have the
mm,
power to now change that instead of
right,
just spitting information out, like, which I'm not saying it shouldn't be.
correct.
Like,
Yeah,
everyone's culture deserves to be heard, but is that going to change people's behaviors?
right.
Probably not. I would agree
Yeah,
with you. People, I mean, I don't know.
no.
I'm see-through white, so sorry, can't help you on that. But I think that's such a great way to approach it to have a better conversation. Right now,
Yeah,
there's no sun in
yeah.
Kelowna. Don't worry, I will have a different shade in 6 months. Give me time. But and furthermore, could we have a focus group? Like, I struggle to ask questions to learn more about people of color because I'm afraid that no matter what I say, I'm going to be racist. So I'm
Yeah,
feel like I'm being blocked from asking those questions because I don't want to offend anyone, but I think it's cool.
yeah,
Tell me why you do these things. What do you cook in
yeah,
your foods? Like, why
yeah,
when at your home, what did music sound like? What does dancing
yeah.
look like? Like, I'll dance to Latin music and I'm like, I have no idea what he's saying. Hopefully I'm saying I'm not a stupid cunt, but this music's good, like, but I don't do it in like, it's not a racist way. I'm like, shit, this is
Yeah,
spicy. I like it, like,
yeah,
that's what I loved about Canada originally. It was because all these cultures truly, looking at it as like, you know, coming together and learning all these
yeah,
cultures. And I felt so blessed to grow up learning, French immersion, learning the French culture, and then, having indigenous built right into the island. Like that was always stuff we were taught about. And, we came from, smaller islands. So I didn't meet newfies, but, we had
Yeah.
people of color. It wasn't shocking to me. And then I grew up and it's like, oh, you guys are all racist. And I'm like, what? I thought asking questions and learning about other people's cultures was like a respect thing. Like where did I go wrong? Right?
Yeah.
I approached
And
it with
so
curiosity, but you're like, you're
yeah.
racist. And I'm like, okay, sure. Good to know. Thanks.
I can't get my mind around that. And like if you ask my parents and my family, like we don't care about skin color, or like it's not
No.
something that even comes across. Like it doesn't come across my mind. It's not how my parents raised me. And I'll tell you, if I were 16 years old and I came home and I told my parents, Mom and Dad, I didn't get that job, and they said, oh well, like, why didn't you get that job? I was like, oh, because they're racist. I think my dad would be like, shut the fuck up. You did not prepare for that interview. Get your ass
Yes.
out there. Go start
Yeah.
applying. Like, it's just such an odd thing for people to say, well, your lived experience. It's like I was raised in Toronto, very accepting community.
Yep.
Were there people who were discriminatory towards me?
Of
Maybe. Did
course.
I notice it? Maybe. But did I care about it? No, I didn't care because 99% of everybody else was friggin' amazing. Um,
Yes. Yes.
but I think the other thing, which is really interesting to me, is that I did this interview with this professor last year about affirmative action in the United
Mm,
States,
Oh.
and specifically on campus.
Yeah.
So there was a push to have more Black and Latino students in particular on
Mhm.
campus. And the reason why is because if we have students from different backgrounds, it'll increase diversity. There'll be more
Mhm.
cross racial friendships.
Mhm.
And what the research found was that if you have more Black and Latino uh, students on campus, there's more Black and Latino groups of students. There's
Mm.
actually less cross racial friendships.
And more
And
not division, but
yes, so everyone just hunkers down,
pods.
right,
Yeah.
into their enclaves.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the group with the most cross racial friends were white people. And that was really
Man,
interesting.
we
And
just love people. Just kidding. There's some terrible white people. I'm not saying not. I'm
of
just
course.
saying.
And there's
The
terrible
every
there's terrible
it's just
brown people and Black
people.
people,
It's just
Yeah.
down to your person and your essence and your soul. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
honestly, like I just like I wish I had beautiful brown skin. Y'all, it sucks being see-through. Like I always admire that and I always admire things about other people. And then it's like all of a sudden I'm being told that then I'm being racist and I'm culturally appropriating. And I'm like, just because I
Yeah.
want to twerk, what does that mean? And what is that saying to the people that you know what I mean? Like for one thing I really loved about Candace Owens, I want to say she was on Dr. Phil. This was quite a few years ago, and what
Mhm.
she was going on about how there's professors like to your point that are having students of color and really focusing, let's say, on having Black students in to increase that. And I don't have any just like respect to that. Like I get it, but
Yeah.
then she was just like, so you're just picking people based on their color, saying that. So what are you actually telling us, that we only get this because of our skin color, not because we
Yeah.
earned it or we're smart? Or what are you telling our population, that like you guys don't have any worth? You just get picked because of this? Like how about
Yeah.
not? How about having a standard of understanding? And like I get that too, because
Mhm.
then there's communities that don't get those based on where they are, and like I understand that argument as well. But at the same
Yeah.
time, again, when you're telling people that are going into an anti-racist thing and everyone needs to be a part of it, and every Canadian is racist because of they were just born here at this time and place,
Yeah.
and in the past this happened, and you're, like I really struggle with that one, because I'm like, what? I fucking love everybody, unless you don't
Mhm.
put your plates away at the gym. If you leave your plates on a machine, pound sand. But like, I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean? Like for the most
Yeah.
part, like unless you're hurting people, like I love you. So
Yeah.
how would that mean that? And then you just feel like you have to defend yourself, or you want to remove yourself from those situations just so
Mhm.
that you don't say anything bad. Like this is what I feel like kind of like the LGBTQ community is kind of doing, is kind of
Yeah.
actually alienating themselves, because most people don't have a problem. It's when you get yelled at for misgendering. It's when you
Yeah.
get yelled at for not maybe understanding when they themselves don't understand. That's where you're trying to be with everyone, but you're really just doing this. And it makes me sad, because I don't think that any of
Yeah.
these groups or movements started with that idea. It was really started to just be seen and heard and validated, which is great. Everyone wants that. But now it's kind of ego driven, and in every kind of movement you see, it's very like
Mhm.
money driven and, corporations get it and they change their flag for the month and they make their monies. And again, back to
Yeah.
virtual signaling, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it makes me sad because if we could have these conversations come together, there'd be more
Mhm.
support, I think, through it.
Exactly. I had this large, like this full-on debate with this person on Instagram in my DMs. This person was just like, because I was like,
It's
I
my
put,
favorite pastime.
right? Exactly, right? Like, I put out this reel saying, like, I don't put my pronouns in my signature because I don't take any offense to being misgendered. I think you might have, and
Yeah, I loved
this
it.
person lost it on me. Well, they didn't lose it on me. They were just like, why do you think this? Da, da, da. And I was saying to him, I've never had to explain it.
Mm,
And this person said, well, what if I started referring to you as she, her? I'm like, go ahead. It doesn't offend me because
nope.
I'm comfortable in my sexual orientation, gender identity. I
Hmm.
understand how some people that's not the case. And whatever your pronouns are, please tell me
Yeah.
and I will refer to them. But if you tell me something, like I had this experience at work where this person said, my pronouns are he, they. And I said, okay, like I know for a fact I'm going to misgender you at some point
Hmm.
because you're he some of the time and they some of the time, and I
Yep.
don't know when which. So I think personally at that point you're kind of setting me up to misgender you, which in Ontario is a human rights violation. And to me, that's like exactly. I'm like, now you're making me play
Your game.
stupid games
Yep.
because what's in it for me
Yep.
to know your pronouns that you can change within a given day? That's not fair. And I think honestly, I hate to use this word, so I'm going to try to find a better, more politically correct word. But I
If
think
you're
that
worried about that being on my show, do not worry. We're striked enough on YouTube. But yes, I
okay,
get
fuck
it.
it. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
fine.
right?
Yeah.
I
Be real,
think
man.
that bastardizes the damn
Hmm.
movement of the trans community that's been fighting for more inclusion in their pronouns, because now
Yep.
you have these some individuals who
Hmm.
say I'm he some of the time and they some of the time. Well, what about those individuals who don't fit in any gender
Mm.
identity or sexual orientation and are struggling for people to understand that as well? I've always wondered this. What about asexual people,
Yes.
people who have no sexual attraction to anyone,
Yep.
who, and there are people like
Totally.
that are asexual,
Yep.
that have no sexual attraction,
Hmm.
have no use for their sexual organs,
Hmm.
have no sexual desire or pleasure,
Yep.
and they're trying to fight to say like, I really don't play these pronoun games
Games.
because
Yes.
I'm here trying for people to understand that there are people who are asexual. So
They
anyways, I
ruin the
just find that,
movement, kind of, right? You see that with everything. That's kind of where
yeah,
I feel with it. And if you listen, like, so it's so
yeah,
funny when people call me transphobes, I'm like, well, that's strange because if you actually go to my YouTube history, go right now. You'll go scroll through it and you will see that I watch Buck Angel, Blair White, Marcus Dibbs. I actually watch the top trans people
wow,
all the fucking time. I respect them. I comment. I engage with them. I
yeah,
absolutely love and respect them because they're saying, again, hey, like there's fake people that run on these movements to get attention. And I feel things like TikTok and the
yeah,
algorithms are doing that because, like you said, people are addicted to, like, I'm not trying to be rude, but a little bit of insanity, right? Where it's
yes,
just like, it's unhinged and people like 30 seconds of unhinged because we're trying to distract from our own lives, right? So it's like I completely
yeah,
understand what you're saying, and I'm again the same way. You come to me and you're like, I'm a kind person. If you're like, if you're trans, like I will definitely do that. There's people in my life that are like that. But when
mhm,
you make everything about you and your
yeah,
trauma and what you're going through and you outwardly project on everyone, that's where I'm not going to participate because listen here, I not you but like people,
mhm,
I can't very well have a baby, okay? I've had
mhm,
a lot of issues with that. I don't go around to every single pregnant person or mother or tell them that they cannot speak about their
yes,
children or their pregnancy or their excitement to be mothers around me
mhm,
because on the
right,
inside I'm dying that I'm not one. I don't do
mhm,
that. That is not other people's trauma or journey or responsibility. That is mine.
mhm,
Now,
right,
did I used to despise people that would get abortions and think that those things are, just some easy thing to do and it doesn't come with weight? Absolutely. Have I
mhm,
grown a lot in that? Totally. And when the
mhm,
Roe v. Versus Wade came out,
mhm,
I was right in the throes of another miscarriage, and I had all these women
wow,
and like libs of TikTok. and trans being like, I want to be the first trans to have a baby and then abort it. And I'm like, what fucking world
Wow.
am I living in
Jeez.
right now? And I didn't go on there and start yelling at people. I just started looking inside and was like, girl, you're never going to stop people in these opinions and saying this at this rate.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you better start looking in and start regulating your reactions to this, and
Yeah.
understand that that's their lives and not yours. And that's what I think as adults we need to do with our trauma and our shit, is not project that on everyone, and understand, like, I don't understand wanting to be a trans man to have a baby to abort. I don't understand that experience. But if I believe in free speech and free whatever, I guess do what you want. But
Mhm.
I'm also not gonna like go out of my way to yell at you. Well, for one, I wouldn't win. They yell louder. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if
Yeah.
you look at it from that lens, or for, let's just go to gender affirming care in Canada, and how you in trouble for that. Well, listen, I got fucked up from birth control. That's a hormonal adjustment at a teenage years. Is it not fair
Mhm.
for me to put up my hand and say, y'all, I got hurt by hormone changes as a teenager. Are we sure
Mhm.
about this? But I say that and I'm
Mhm.
transphobic. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Really? Because again,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
follow trans people. I know them. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, right? So it's like, again,
Yeah.
having these uncomfortable conversations, Christopher, why can't we have them?
I
We
agree, and I
can.
think we can definitely, and I think just the consistency of them is
Yeah.
just like, I mean, thank you for sharing that. That is, like, just a very personal and incredible story that you're at a place where you can share that,
Thank you.
because it is a psychological intervention to feel comfortable doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, this is the thing that I often struggle with. There's so much research out there from psychology that shows that through all types of interventions, whether it's therapy, exposure therapy, there are ways we can overcome some of our most darkest secrets and be
Totally.
very comfortable and lead very productive lives. And we shouldn't shame ourselves into not doing that. So I think that there's an open lane, if you will, on social media
Mm-hmm.
to make these uncomfortable conversations normal. Um, there's so many great podcasts on the effect of pornography on young
Mm-hmm.
boys and what that's doing to
Awful.
young boys.
Yep.
Like, it's not like naked pictures of women. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking like, a lot of violent pornography,
It gets
reshaping.
worse just
Right.
down the line. And like, think about our
Yeah.
age. Like, we
Yeah.
had to go into like the back of a video store and kind of be shamed. Like, there was no ordering
Yeah.
it on your phone in 30 seconds, right? So think
Right.
about like the progression from even the last 15 years of going to like the back end of maybe Blockbuster or the family, movie store,
Yeah.
and so teenagers, like boys your age, girls my age, we didn't really have much access. Like pay-per-view was just starting to come out as I was like turning into 1920. Like it was like almost like a UFC fight. You'd like order the porn on the
Yeah.
pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But now it's literally, for one, almost on Instagram, right? Like I get
Yeah.
blocked for stuff, but all of a sudden I'll open it and all of a sudden I'm like, sorry, like see someone's fucking clam, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what did I just open that up? But I got banned because I said, I don't think masks work after all these years. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like
So true.
there's that push of that, and then it goes right back to the conspiracy of them wanting to break the family home and the nuclear home. And how do you do that? Well, I feel like you put people in this idea that sex isn't what, like, sex is truly like, yes, there's pleasure in it, but it's about reproducing. And somehow now
Mm.
we've taken that beautiful active human connection, and I don't want to say cheapened it, but cheapened it to just like being about everything. And it really is taken away from nuclear family, having that personal relationship with one person, that beauty of that. And that's coming from someone who used to be a slut, y'all. So I am not slut shaming. I used to be one. But what I'm saying is that I was fed that was my
Mhm.
value. The more people I
Right.
slept with, the more value I must have, the hotter I must be.
Mm.
Turns
Right.
out that's not exactly it. And it does a lot of damage. And now I see this for the younger generation, where these girls are, as soon as they turn 18, they're on OF. And I'm like, girls, like, I just
Yeah.
slept with people and that did me damage. Okay.
Mhm.
Doing this on a
Mhm.
grand level that we have no idea what this level's going to do. You see these studies that you're speaking about now. What's this going to look like in 10 years when we've got AI out there now? Like,
Yeah.
that's scary what they could do.
Yeah.
I
It
just
is
like,
scary.
with just your face. They don't even need
Oh.
a naked picture of you, right? They just need your face. And so I actually thought this was kind of interesting. One girl was snapping back on OF on the whatever podcast. I like to go
Mhm.
over there from time to time.
Hmm.
to watch the arguments unfold. And she was just kind of like, y'all, like AI is taking your money away. Like very soon, if you're making fun of these incels, you hate
Hmm.
them, you don't really care about them, you're mocking them. Well, they're going to go to AI and they're just going to make their dream girl and they're just going to pay digital people to give them what they want. And they're essentially working you out of work. Like,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you make fun of them, but they're the ones funneling it. And it's just like, I just kind of
Hmm.
stopped for a second. I'm like, how did we get here?
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
did we get here? How do we stop it? From 15 years ago of us having to go to a video store to people could sit in their house and make their own porn about whoever they want.
Yeah. It's madness. But at the same time, I think that there is also a misunderstanding of both male and female psychology by both
Mm-hmm.
genders.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Very
yesterday
fair.
was International Women's Day, and my feed, I'm sure yours as
Yeah.
well, was just littered with like, a lot of
Women's Day.
what you right, like a lot of posts which I would consider were like pointed to men
Mm.
in a way,
Yes,
right?
and
Be
in a
like
mean way, like
in a
anti-men.
very yeah, like,
Yes.
and
Yep.
I'm not trying to undermine the
Nope.
the plight of women, of course. Like,
Mm.
yes,
I
women
will.
have been left out. Women have been left out of various spheres of our society, of course. But I found it very fascinating, and I should have made a post, and maybe I still will, about what I saw on all my social media platforms. And I think that there is a misconception, or sorry, there is a misunderstanding of male psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned earlier, Brandy, about like going through your slut phase, etc. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what's interesting is that so there's so again, I'm gonna speak as a guy. Like
Do
this is
it.
a relaxed
It's
conversation.
supposed to be. It's
Okay,
open. Yeah.
so this is how. I've talked to my friends, and this has gotten us into heated conversation. So,
Yes.
uh, but so I think so from a guy's perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like guys think about sex a lot,
Yes.
especially when we first meet a girl. Like it's just the reality of
It's
how we're
nature.
wired as biological men. We think about sex a lot, and maybe that's rooted in our like primal instincts and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a man in the 21st century, if I see a cute girl at a bar,
Yeah.
that's
That's what you're
what I'm
thinking.
thinking about. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, and that's
That's
what
what the
most guys,
bitches want. Don't let them lead you think that they don't want that, okay? Like
right,
ladies, stop. Like don't look at me,
right.
but look at me. Like stop. Like it's
Right,
okay. It's
exactly.
okay to
There's
want to attract people and it's okay to be attracted to people. Let's just put that out there, okay? Cuz that's like a
exactly. There's
weird thing in the
nothing
dating
wrong with
world like right now with that.
right. And there's a reason why OnlyFans and Pornhub and all these things exist. Is because
Mhm.
men are by their nature just physical creatures. That's why, like, I don't know about the show Love Is Blind because I don't think that a guy can actually not see a girl for months on end and
I just
then
like the
be like,
memes.
right, and like be like, oh, I want to marry you. Like, I'm so attracted to your personality. Like,
I look like
no,
Megan
there's
Fox. That's
it's
all I
like
know.
okay, maybe,
Maybe, but there has to
but
be that physical attraction in my
there
opinion.
has to be.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same for women, but like
Yeah.
for guys, it's the first thing, and then we build a personality, and then we see compatibility. But that physical is the first thing. For women, I think it's the opposite, right? It's like
Yes.
the
To a
the
degree.
chemistry, the vibe, and then the physical.
Yeah. Yep.
So because of that opposite nature, I think a lot of times women think that because guys think about sex first,
Hmm.
that they're only using women for sex. And yes, there
Totally.
are guys out there that are definitely going to the bar
Hmm.
trying to get laid, and that's the only thing they're doing, and
Yep.
like that is a result of like some type of psychosis or like some type of psychological thing. But
Mommy
the
issues.
right, exactly, but there's also like PhDs with like
Totally.
really good jobs sitting at the bar who's also thinking about sex,
Yeah,
um
absolutely. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also wants to like have sex initially and then build
Build.
a relationship together.
Yeah.
And that I think is often getting confused. Like guys are not these guys who hide behind the bushes and grab a girl and like sexually assault her. Yes,
Yeah.
there are men who do that, but the
Totally.
vast majority of men don't do that.
Mm-mm.
They're physically attracted to women, and I
Hmm.
think that right there is being shamed so much in our society today,
Hmm.
where we're creating these men who are too nice at bars, and they're not
Hmm.
honest with themselves yet honest with a girl to say, listen, I'm physically attracted to you,
Hmm.
I would love to spend more time with you. And then there's that hesitation, but I understand if you don't want that. Like, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, that's so
Yes.
corny. It's
Yes,
like,
yes, like, just
you
stand in your
have
ground. It's okay.
yeah, just
Like,
be like,
yeah.
"Listen, I really like you. I'd love to spend
Yes.
more time with you," you know, like, and if she says no, then she says no, and you say,
Yep.
"Okay, I
Cool.
understand."
Yep.
You move on.
Yep,
Um,
totally. But you have to try. You have to shoot your shot,
you
and I
have to
think
shoot your
that's
shot.
such an important
Yeah.
thing, but also, like, I'm gonna say, ladies, don't be so fucking offended and upset about it. Like,
Right.
this is one thing I hear from a lot of my single guy friends. They're like, well,
Yeah.
I try to approach, and then they just get so upset. Like you said, not every
Mhm.
single guy. Yes, of course. That is so ridiculous to just go up to someone and just assume. Like, that is what we're made for, is to be
Yeah.
attracted, right? And then you
Yeah.
find your person. And I
Yeah.
completely agree where women, when they're leading with sex, it's more like a emotional, mental safety thing, because
Sure.
women are very much more vulnerable because we are, I
Yeah.
don't want to say the weaker gender. That's not feminist what I mean, but essentially, yes,
Mhm.
physically, like, for one, you can't be like, don't come in my bathroom because you could beat me up, and then be like, no, I'm the
Yeah.
stronger gender. Like, you fucking can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Like, there's an understanding that, like,
Yeah.
yes, I could be stronger than some men out there. Of course, I'm also a
Yeah.
lot weaker than a lot of men out there, but there
Sure.
is that dynamic, and that is what the core of what humans are. And it makes me so
Yeah.
upset when women are like, oh my God, he hit on me. How dare, like, what? Like, how do you expect to meet someone
Yeah.
nowadays? But then you equally hear women bitch like, no one asks me out, no one flirts with me, no one does that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe because you're not being approachable, and maybe you're,
Yes.
like you said, acting like, oh, he's so aggressive. Like,
Yeah.
most men, their love language is touch. Like, most of them, that's
Yes.
how they feel love,
Yeah.
that's how they receive love. That's how
Mhm.
my spouse does. I'm words of affirmation. So
Yeah.
when he's like trying to hug me and love on me, I'm like, when I need the love, I'm like, that's not what I need right now. Just tell me how
Yeah.
awesome I am, and like remind me, right? And then, so
Yeah.
you have to know that about each other. But men are
Mhm.
predominantly like that, and that doesn't mean that they're
Mhm.
abusers or rapists
No.
or any of those things. Are there? Yes, but there's also
Mhm.
women that are. So again, you can't say that a certain gender, a certain race, or certain, it's people, their
Mhm.
essence, their energy, they're who they are based on their experiences. And that could
Yeah.
be different from whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're from Canada
Mhm.
or another
Mhm.
country. Like, it's really individual. And I feel for men right now, but because the bad men have done shitty things,
Mhm.
and they've made it so it seems like all men are like that, and then men are too afraid to speak up because they're not allowed to talk about their feelings, they're not allowed to share their experiences, and then you
Mhm.
can't even defend yourself, because if you do, you're just this toxic male. And it's like,
Well, I've leaned
there's
into it at this point.
it's like, fuck, like, just call me whatever you want. Like, I'm so over
Yeah.
it. Like, and I just think there's toxic people. I don't think there's toxic femininity, and I don't think there's toxic masculinity. I think there's just toxic people, and they could be
Yeah.
men or women, and people have energies. Some days when Grant's gone, I have to be more of the male energy. He's not here.
Sure.
I have to take care of the shit that he's not here. But when he's
Right.
home, you bet he's driving. You bet he's like,
Yeah.
barbecuing more or doing the man things. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. But you guys are made to believe there's something wrong with being a man. And I think that's created
100%.
a weak men society,
Yeah,
personally.
exactly. And our leaders that we're looking up to are what I would consider these, like
Big.
Trudeau has openly said he's a feminist. And in my honest opinion, and I've studied feminism, don't like I know the feminists will say like one of my favorite books is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, which is a
Yeah,
wonderful
fair.
book banned by the Pope and the Catholic Church. Because Simone de Beauvoir in her seminal work says this is a man's world, which I agree with. It's
Hmm.
a man's world, and no man can be a feminist. I believe she says that in the book. And I
Hmm.
agree. It's like,
Hmm.
you're a man. You're a
Hmm.
man, and we will never understand what it's like to be a woman. I will
Nope.
never understand what it's like to be a woman,
Mhm.
nor should I ever pretend to. I like that is the
No
most
matter what your brain tells you. No, I'm just kidding.
exactly. And I think as a woman, and I don't want to speak on behalf of women, but I wouldn't want a woman pretending to be a man
No,
that I would be attracted to. And I don't think me trying to be a woman would be super attractive to women.
you kind
Right?
of have a
Like
beard.
so
Like, it's like,
exactly. So,
I
like,
just feel like that's
to
a man
me
trait.
right. So just, like,
Unless I
I don't know.
forget to shave, it happens. But yes, for the most part, yes. And I think too, and that's like, why are we so afraid of that? Like, why
Yeah,
are we so afraid to be like, I'm never like that. I'm fully fine to be like, I'm
yeah,
a woman, but I'm independent, and I can take care of myself, but I want to. I like the balance. I like, and
yeah,
my leadership, like, all my bosses are males at work, and I get along great with them. Like,
yeah.
I don't have, I want to say this, and most people who listen to my podcast aren't going to be feminists, because I actually heard on the whatever podcast, again, not to go back to that, but one
Mhm.
guy was like, made a really great question. If you knew where feminism is today, would you support the original movement?
Mm, that's an
Ah,
interesting question. Very interesting
I
question.
had to sit on that for a minute and
Yeah.
be like, okay, I understand where it starts, but everything that progresses, is progression always the best thing? Are we opening things up a little too much? And if I had to say no, no, I'm not a feminist. I don't
Yeah.
believe that feminism now is about equality. It's about having more, and that's ego
Yeah.
based, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't. I have every same fucking right that you do. I truly do. And you know what?
Yeah.
You want to know why this is? I'm gonna be maybe a little controversial. You want to know why this is a man's world? Motherfuckers, you made it. You built it.
Mhm.
You were in
Yeah.
the positions to do that. And are you making room for women to come up and start making it for them? Absolutely. And that is a progression that we need. But that does
Yeah.
not mean, like, I'm sorry, y'all, most women are very emotional. Can men be? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. When they have low testosterone,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
and but at the end of the day, when I go, like, I learn the best about the men that are around me that are very level-headed and business and
Yeah.
see stuff at a very not fluffy level. And then I
Yeah.
turn to the women I look up with, and I'm like, okay, women in business, where did we take this? Where can we keep going? How can I assert myself in a boardroom and be
Mhm.
respected, not as a man, but as a
Mhm.
woman? And what
Yes.
are my qualities that I can bring into this corporate world that
Mhm.
men didn't originally have, and now I can move myself in? Now, is there men that despise that? Totally. But
Yeah.
there's also women that despise that too, or make fun of women like me that are trying to, I don't want to be a man in a corporate world. I want to be a woman in a corporate world. I know
Yes.
where my qualities lie and what I'm good at. I'm good at personal relationships. I'm good at communicating. I'm good at gathering data and spitting it out to mean something. I am
Mhm.
not good at being in board meetings and telling people that they're fucking wrong and stupid and arguing with them at a high corporate level. That's not my forte. I'm okay
Yeah.
to say that, and but it doesn't mean that I feel like I'm less than,
Yeah.
right? I see my
Correct.
value. And I think that's what the problem is. It's not you men, it's women. A big problem, not all of it, is women having value in themselves.
Exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head there. I think that I hate to sound so archaic, but it's like men need to be men, women need to be women kind of thing. It's
Right.
like we are different for a reason, and
Yes.
the more we lean into that identity, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do think that, of course, we need to learn from each other and learn the specific issues. We talked about before, I believe, suicide, depression, super higher amongst men.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that women don't have
No.
anxieties and depression and suicidal thoughts, of course. But if we look at, the stats are
Statistics.
wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stems from a misunderstanding of male psychology. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I try to do is help people know what I'm thinking as a man. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not always bad. It shouldn't be shunned. It's just there's a male psychology to things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sometimes on public policy, men can be too rational,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can be too rational. And like a perfect example is like, Trump's border wall. Like most men
Yep.
would be like, yeah, like throw up the wall, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
we strong borders. And then
Totally.
you get into the nuance of like, okay, like a pregnant woman
Mm-hmm.
crossing the border illegally. Like
Mm-hmm.
who's going to deliver that baby?
Yeah.
And like some men will be like, send her back. It's like, okay, so now we're putting the woman and the child at risk. It's like
Totally.
there's a gray area where I think the female perspective is very much valued. And it's not just
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's like, how do we treat people after they get processed or before they get processed? And
Yes.
there's a lot of benefit to that policy of border security
Mm-hmm.
that benefit from both male and female perspectives that
Mm-hmm.
actually makes a more holistic public policy because you can't just have it
Black and white.
guns with armed guards,
Yeah.
ready to shoot
Yeah.
anybody at the border. It's
Yes.
like that's not really the most beneficial way of doing this. The better way is incorporating different perspectives that are both male and female. And
Mm-hmm.
people, the thing is we kind of run away from the idea that because you're a man, you have specific views.
Mm-hmm.
You do have specific views because you're a man, and it's not like
That's your lens. It's got
that's
a
your
boy
lens,
lens on. Like, you don't
right?
weren't treated the same way growing up. You weren't treated the same in school as women. So
Right.
you're going to have that from your perspective and your lens. And there's nothing bad
Yeah.
with that, but y'all are being taught that it is, or told that it is,
Yeah.
in a degree. And it's like, no, let's just hear what they have to say and then give them maybe the woman's point of view and then they can take it
Mhm.
or leave it. And if they're like,
Yeah.
no women's voice is ever important, then yeah,
Yeah.
they're misogynistic assholes. But I do not agree, and
Yeah.
nor has my experience been that when I'm around any men that I know. Even if they joke, like
Yeah.
there's that meme going around being like Happy International Women's Day with like the tires, like the rims skidded. Like, yeah, bitches, we do that. Like I did that in my fucking Hyundai. I won't do it in the Jag. I'm extra careful in the Jag. But like, why can't we laugh at that? Why can't men
Yeah.
make a joke of that? Like, why can't
Yeah.
that just be lighthearted and be like, yeah, dumb bitches, yeah, we don't pay attention. We're so busy drinking our Stanleys and listening to our podcast. Like, whatever. Like, just let it go and laugh and like, let's
Yeah.
laugh at our differences and laugh what makes us like to me, and again, coming from a white bitch here, so quote me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't it be funner if we could all just make fun of ourselves and laugh at
Yeah.
ourselves about our differences? Like growing up in the 90s, I felt like we could do those things and it wasn't offensive to joke with someone because they knew that you cared about them.
Yeah.
Like you knew at the end of the day, like if you can't make fun of your friends, like what's the point? Like why can't we all laugh
Yeah.
at each other? Like I love it when people
Yeah.
send me something, be like, or screenshot my face and I'm like, and they're like, you look so stupid. I was like, I do. Like, what am I doing? Or like, Brandy, stop talking over people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying, like
Yeah.
once you're okay with being yourself and knowing that you
Yeah.
can make mistakes, you can get things wrong, you can learn. I can have an opinion and change it tomorrow. You don't stress so much, right?
No, you don't. And you know what's
Because
wild too is
this is
people don't.
life.
It's life. And again, I'm gonna speak from my experience, and I'm sure you
Totally,
had the
please.
same. It's like when you're not your authentic self, you don't attract many people,
No, oh my
because
God,
people have
no.
this like sixth sense when you know this is the thing about politics, and it's not just politics, but I think
Mhm.
just in life in general, people generally throw things out there at the dinner table or in conversation, and they can see you holding back.
Mhm.
And if they sense that, they're like, "Oh, Christopher's not being his real self. I know he disagrees, so I'm not going to really fuck with him like I
Yes.
used to."
Yep.
And
Yep.
I notice now that I'm like more open, I'm more of a big mouth, I'm more
Yes.
annoying to people. They're
Yes.
like insanely attracted to
Mhm.
having me around because they're like, "I know he's gonna say something. What's it gonna be now?"
What's it
And it's
gonna
like,
be?
"Let's go. You
Let's
you you
surprise. I'm just as
start there."
surprised as you are what comes out of my
Yeah.
mouth. Like, let's have this adventure. Like,
Yeah,
and
let's see
not
where this goes.
not self-censoring is the most gratifying
Oh,
feeling ever. You know what I'm saying? You know that. You know when you could
100%.
do that. And I mean there's a degree
Yeah.
like we just talked to bring right back to the
Yeah.
beginning of conversation. Like
Yeah.
there's self-censoring and there's being kind to people and being like,
Mhm.
is what I'm going to say going to make this better? Am I stroking my ego by trying to get validation in this conversation? Am I
Yes.
truly trying to educate? Like what is your intention? I think is
Yeah.
what truly matters. Like curiosity, a general want to know, or you just being a fuck bag to just get, you know what I mean, get to your point.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Yeah.
when you can't be authentic, the only people that are acceptable of that are the people that are
Mhm.
willing to be authentic themselves. And I personally
Yeah.
don't want to be around that, right? Have your
Yeah.
opinion. Maybe I don't agree with it. And I'm going to say, hey, Christopher, can we talk about
Yeah.
this? I might disagree. Can we have an open discourse with the understanding
Yeah.
that I do disagree, but I want to have an adult conversation? Those
Yeah.
are my favorite conversations. When I disagree with someone
Yeah.
in their stories and I really am like, okay, I'm mad.
Yeah.
Why? I want to
Yeah.
have that conversation. Can I ask you and talk to you about this? Because I don't agree. It's triggering me and I'd like to learn why. Can you tell
Yeah.
me a little bit more? Man,
Mhm.
those are powerful conversations and they change
Right.
me entirely. But most people
Yeah.
just see it and be like, fuck you, unfollow. And you're like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done
100%.
it. I've done it.
Yeah.
But I
Hey,
think we need to open up conversations and be okay with being different. And that's why I love that you just are just like me. You're just like, I feel this way right now. I'm going to say it. What do you guys think? And you just accept it.
boom.
And you
Yeah.
just accept whatever people say. You're
Yeah.
like, cool, thanks. I agree, disagree. Cool. Because once you get to that
Exactly.
authentic self, you don't really care if people disagree because you know where your heart is. You know your intention. And you know that they
Exactly.
probably don't understand that. So that they're not the same level. Why drop down to the low vibes there, right? And argue with someone that's not willing to be open.
Exactly. And sometimes I even tell people, I'm like, you can have your opinion, and I respect it. You can't take away my opinion. Um,
No.
there's no way. Like, my
How
opinion
does
is
that work?
mine.
How
Like,
does
I know
that
you
work?
want me to agree with you, but I
Yes,
just don't. I think you're a
I
nice person.
don't.
I just don't agree with you on this. It's not a big
Yes,
deal. Like, I don't
yes.
agree with most people on most things. But
Yep.
recently, like, I lost it. Well, you know what? I kind of like, again, I'm entering this asshole phase, which I
Here
absolutely
for it.
love. Yeah,
Here for it.
because like, right, there's this girl I was talking to, and She had a man, and she was still talking to me, and I was like, oh man, like this is weird.
Yep.
So I just sent her a message. I'm like, listen, I can't be talking to you while
You're
you have a man.
conscious. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, like no, like my
Mm-hmm.
needs come first, and
Yep.
I need to focus on Christopher Balgren,
Yes.
and make sure my needs are being met.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay. And like, she kept watching all my like stories, like kind of creepishly,
Mm-hmm. Of course.
until I was like, okay, well, I don't know why I have her on social media
Mm-hmm.
because, what's
Not
the point
serving.
here? Right. So I had to like unfollow her and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. And so, it's one of those things where you look back and you're like, oh, that sucks. But at the same time, it's like, no, no, it doesn't suck.
It doesn't.
You're
You've
you're
seen it.
living your truest self. Yeah.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you have to think about your needs first. And that's not
Yes.
selfish.
No.
That's like living your authentic self is what God intends you to do. Do you think, I
Absolutely.
always wonder this, like,
Yeah.
do you think God or the universe put you on this earth to only dream about what could be and not live what is? Like,
Yes, this
there's
is
no
what I
way.
struggle with. So I always wonder when you look at like religion and all that, when they say at the end of your life, you'll reach utopia,
Yeah.
you'll reach
Hmm.
the everything. What if the life that we're living is that? And we just get to
Hmm.
come back to repeat it, right? Like, so why
Yeah.
sit there and always wait to live your life? And at the end, and God's going to give me this, whoever you're looking at, universe, source, whatever, when my
Hmm.
life ends, that's when I go to the glory. It's like, what if we're living in paradise right now? And
Yes.
we then have the choice of what that looks like, and we can manifest it to ourselves, or we can manifest
Hmm.
hell. Maybe heaven and earth is right here, and we just
Hmm.
reset every single time, and we come back to this earth, learn new
Yeah.
things. That's when we come back, we're like, I know you. I know you from somewhere. I don't know how I know
Yeah.
you, or I know this lesson. How do I know this? Like, but then some
Hmm.
ways you're like, this is a whole new lesson to me. Like, that's how I
Yeah.
kind of believe that heaven and earth is here, and we just keep repeating
Hmm.
our stories, and we learn and we ascend until our souls
Yeah.
get old, and maybe then life ends. But I don't
Hmm.
know. I just, why sit here and wait for the next year, wait for the end of life to think that you're going
Yeah.
to find paradise? Why not live in paradise right now? And then maybe you get even more paradise, right? So, like you said, maybe
Exactly.
what's the purpose of just coming here and like having all these mental illness labels and being sad and depressed? Like, you don't have to live like that. And I think once you realize you don't have to, you aggressively want to tell people you don't have to. And when you're in it,
Yeah.
you're like, easier said than
Yeah.
done, easier said than done. But
Right.
that's, but I
Right.
want to go back to one thing quickly that you said about what
Hmm.
you just brought up about that girl, and what I want to bring to men and
Yeah.
women. Guys, if you want a certain standard, you have to live by that standard. So if you don't want men talking to your ladies, don't talk to other men's ladies in an inappropriate way, right? So it's
Right.
like, if you believe in karma, if you would have kept up with that, for one, that wouldn't have been right for you because she wasn't
Hmm.
focusing on you and giving you what you would have deserved. But at the same
Hmm.
time, what kind of karma is that going to bring to you if you were to advance in that relationship? Is she going to do that to you? Or even not, that breaks up and you're like, no
Hmm.
good, you go to the next person, you find the love of your life, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
she's doing the same thing. That, to me, there
Yeah.
is karmic things, and if you want people to show up a way for you, you cannot do that either. You cannot, so ladies, it's like, if you want your men to be loyal to them, and I think there's this big conversation with conservatives and liberals where it's like, men can't tell you what to do. Listen,
Mhm,
if I want to post a boudoir photo, Grant would never say a goddamn thing. But out of
mhm,
respect to him, I don't really do
mhm.
that, just because, like, and I'm not just saying that, but like, yes, I will once in a while, but that's not what I want to show forward in the world, because
Yeah.
that is private between me and my spouse. That's what's intimate between us. And I feel like there's this big misunderstanding that then he then controls that. And it's like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. There's a sacred part, intimate part that I want to keep between me and my spouse. I don't want
Yes.
him going out there standing in like his like knickers and like whatever.
Mhm.
Not that he
Yeah.
would. And he has
Yeah.
all the right to it if you want to, but that's just not like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. But then society is like telling me I'm a prude, and that I'm being like whipped. And
Yeah.
it's like, absolutely not. It's just having respect, and wanting to keep something private and to us, and not to the world. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not saying, there's tons of couples that are
Mhm.
successful that are like porn, all that, whatever, that's to
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just think it's insane that it's like, oh, well, then you're being controlled by your man. And it's like, that me posting my
Yeah.
body is not empowering to me. If that's empowering to you, dope. It's
Yeah.
not to me. So don't tell me that he's holding me back. What's empowering to me is having great guests and great conversation, and
Yeah.
advancing the world, and planting seed thoughts, and getting people pissed off at
Yes.
me and like in my DMs mad at me about something, and
Yes.
like,
Yes.
like, I want you to be mad. Like, I just got a
Mhm.
message from my girlfriend listening to Kristen Torva's episode about like her having to aggressively advocate. She's like, I'm pissed. I was like,
Mhm.
good. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
brings us
here.
closer together, I think, as
Yeah.
people.
Yes, and
Um,
all of that.
Totally. And I do think, I mean, I don't want to make too many generalizations, but I do think going back to our topic on
Mhm.
men are physical by nature,
Yep.
yeah, like if you were to post like a bikini shot or like, yeah, of course, like
That's the
you might
attention.
get it causes unnecessary attention that like a guy will be like sliding into your DMs being like send me more or like like there's
Mhm.
all types of things that can happen online with just one photo
Mm.
a woman posts. And so like you're totally right, you're not whipped, quote unquote. It's like there's a respect level
I
that
don't
you
want
have
that
for your man.
attention. I don't want that
Right,
attention, like, from my guy. Like, I don't want his best friends to see that, and, like,
right.
and by nature, I'm not saying, like, I'm not being like, "Oh my god, by nature, they're gonna think I'm so hot." Like, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's just by
Yeah,
nature, it's a woman's body,
yeah.
men and women or whatever, women too.
Hmm.
Like, there's also
Hmm.
conversations to be had. Like, I don't want gay men hitting on my spouse because
Yeah,
whoever wants you sexually should not be hitting on you if you're in a relationship. But and we
yeah.
kind of get away with that because, like, women will like kind of have like their bi or lesbian friends, and for sure, like, haha, giggle. But at the same
Yeah.
time, how is that respectful? But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So there's conversations, and I had this conversation with Grant one day. He's like, I never thought about it that way. And I was like, well, if they're sexually attracted to you, like,
Hmm.
them hitting on you, whether they're your friends or not, like, so if it was like my best guy friend and he was hitting on me, that wouldn't be okay. But it's
Yeah.
okay if like one of my girlfriends then hits on me if she's sexually attracted to me. And I'm not saying don't do it.
Yeah.
Y'all love, I know, the compliments, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there, you got to have that, like, there's got to be mutual respect in that. But
Yeah.
I do want to go back to a little bit about
Yeah.
conversations that are hard and things that are changing, because I think there was a big win about the MAiD program, and I know that you delved
Yes.
into that quite a bit, so guys, go listen. I did one episode, but I didn't jump into it as much as you did.
No.
But this is another one that I feel like people aren't having their conversations, and it's being blown up to, like, no way, shape, or form am I saying that shouldn't be available for certain individuals. Absolutely. But
Hmm.
this new them trying to push mental health illnesses, and again, going back to labels
Yeah.
and going back to Kristen's story, a lot of people are being like not served by our healthcare system and then offered this program. And with the amount of mental health issues that are out there right now and the diagnoses that are going on, I am very nervous that yes, they pushed it a year, but it doesn't sound like that's kiboshed. Is that fair
Hmm.
to say? Like, it's just being pushed a year, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to see that possible advancement in the future.
I 100% agree. I
Yeah.
think that there is a concerted effort by some very prominent voices to get made more easily accepted and accessed.
Mhm.
In Quebec, the Quebec College of Physicians, Quebec is a very interesting jurisdiction. Quebec alone,
Interesting.
I think it occupies like I want to say the majority of MAiD cases, and MAiD
Mhm.
is medical assistance in dying. And it's
Mhm.
very important that we get the lexicon because this used to be called euthanasia
Yes,
and it
that's
switched
important
to
to
medical.
talk about. Yep,
Right. It switched because
the language.
people wanted people. Some physicians wanted more normalization of it.
Mhm.
So it's medical assistance in dying. Now, that's a very interesting lexicon shift, which we can discuss. But
Mhm.
Quebec occupies the vast majority of our, in all made cases in Canada, most are happening in Quebec. In fact, one of the leading physicians in the College of Physicians in Quebec had said in October of last year or the year before, I can't remember, that if an infant has some serious illness, MAiD should be available to that
Mhm.
infant, to the parents of that infant.
Mhm.
We are going down a very, very dark and disturbing road
Yes.
because it's no longer terminal four, or sorry, stage four cancer,
Mhm.
um, which are, by the way, the bulk of MAiD cases in Canada are
Mhm.
terminal illness. And I
Mhm.
think that's very important for people to
Yep,
know.
totally.
Um,
As they should.
but as right,
Mhm.
and it's people who are 80 plus years old. Like there's
Mhm.
some, it's like 87% of cases are people who are older. But if we start thinking mental illness, Dying with Dignity Canada has on their website, one of their policies that they're pursuing is mature minors, people
Set this.
12 years old and older accessing MAiD. Um, these are real issues.
Mhm.
So the issue with mental health, I hate to say disorder because it's not a disorder. It's a
Mhm.
mental, it's like a mental, I hate to say illness because it's not an illness, but
Yeah.
it's a stage in your life. So we all
Yeah.
go through depression, anxiety, stress, just different levels of it. There's
Circumstance, like a mental circumstance almost,
mental
kind of.
circumstance, right?
Yeah.
And a traumatic experience can trigger that. So like
Totally.
if you see your parents die in a very traumatic way,
Hmm.
chances are you will be very mentally ill
Hmm.
for a substantial period of time depending on coping
Your
mechanisms,
healing.
etc.
Yep.
But what's interesting is every doctor I spoke to in this series
Mhm.
all said the same thing. Every single patient they treated when it came to mental illness, and I'll say illness in quotations, 100% got better.
Yep. Exactly.
And that is like, it was an episode in their lives. So an
Hmm.
example is um, some there was a study done with 16 patients who had spinal cord injuries.
Mm.
So they went from fully able to quadriplegic
Yep.
within the so within the first few weeks of diagnosis, saying like you will never have use of your arms and legs ever again.
Hmm.
These individuals said, "Okay, I'm done. I don't want to live. I don't want to experience life on a wheelchair. I don't want this life." And they were all saying, "I want 100% of everyone on of the 16 patients said, give me MAiD. I don't want to be here anymore."
Hmm.
And with a psychological intervention, over a year and a half of focus groups, studies, of exposure therapy, of coming to terms, of support networks, of talking through their issues, all 100% of patients said, I no longer want MAiD. I am fully adjusted to life.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's things I won't experience, but
Of
I
course.
will experience life in a different way. And to me, that was
Yes.
such a powerful study where it's like, if you're consistent with it, you will get better.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
are we accessing MAiD for a period of down? Like, there's not always going to be ups in our lives, but are we
Oh.
accessing MAiD at a period of time where we're in a serious down?
Hmm.
Like, that's dangerous, man. That's so
Yes.
dangerous.
And I think too, to bring to that point is like there's a waiting time, but it's not a year and a half. It's like
Right.
what, 90 days possibly
90
for
days.
some people.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes less.
in
Yeah.
90 days and possibly less, you could go through some shit. Like we went through some
Hmm.
shit, and this is what I worry about, right? And especially
Yeah.
when the word mindful minors, and I brought this up in our episode, the same thing. It was like very crazy wording and how they change words to make it more acceptable. Now, again, I absolutely think
Hmm.
that that option should be in Canada. I think
Yeah.
that those that are terminal should absolutely be able to die with dignity. Absolutely.
Sure.
At the same time, what I'm hearing from patients and stories is that this is being offered as well as your cancer diagnosis at the same time,
Hmm.
or you have
Yeah.
this, have you thought about MAiDs, because the system isn't going to support you, you're not going to be able to get the help, you're going to be suffering.
Yeah.
How the fuck is that even part of that conversation? A lot of the stuff, and what I hear from these patients is the hope. The
Hmm.
wording that gets said to them makes a huge difference in their healing. So,
Hmm.
knowing that, even just on a human level, as a practitioner, why would you bring that up? I think most
Yeah.
Canadians at this point know that MAiD is an offered program. If that is something that the patient wants, absolutely think that they have the right to ask for that. But to be offered that as opposed to treatment, because treatment's not going to be there, it's going to be expensive, it's backlogged.
Yeah.
That, how do you tell somebody that?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. To me, this means that that is a business. And
Yeah.
what bothered me the most doing my MAiD research and the small amount that I did compared to you
No.
was the money that they would save and the excitement they had around the money they would save by advancing this program and opening
Yeah.
it up to more people. That
Hmm.
actually made me physically ill to my. So you'd rather
Yeah.
spend money on ending their lives
Yes.
than supporting them for whatever mental or physical illness. Again, if that's terminal and you can't do anything, understand.
Yeah.
But that's not what's being offered now. And like you said, somebody in their darkest times at 18, 19 that did have a bad life, they don't know it gets better. Even in your
Hmm.
darkest times, you always look, we're here today, you've gone through every bad day that had in front of you, every single
Right.
fucking bad thing. And
Right.
majority of comments on these YouTube videos, anything that you research, are people like, holy shit, I'm so glad that I didn't have this offered at a time where I probably
Yeah.
would have said yes, but I came out of my drug addiction, my depression, my anxiety. Like
Yeah.
I used to live in chronic anxiety. I just have anxiety now when I'm driving in the winter. That is it. I don't
Mhm.
live
Yeah.
in that stressed out feeling
Yeah.
anymore, but I did, and I get it. And I would think
Yeah.
if there was a button that could press and I had 190 days and I didn't tell anybody and no
Mhm.
one around me knew,
Yeah.
that's wild. And not to be this way, but their place is making money off of these services as
Mhm.
well. And it's like, I'm not saying they shouldn't, again, for the people that have got their terminal illnesses and they want that choice. But
Hmm.
people like Kristen shouldn't be given her diagnosis and being like, oh, by the way, it's so bad for treatment here in Canada. There's this program.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, immediate, full stop. No, you've gone too far. You lost me
Yeah.
there. I like to play
Yeah.
devil's advocate, but there's not a devil's advocate there at all.
Yeah.
And so it's like, please pay attention, everyone, that
Yeah.
if this goes through in a year, we need to, like, how do we check in on our friends and make sure that they're not tiddling with this option?
Exactly. I totally agree. And I think there's a couple things there too. It's like how many doctors are willing to not assist someone in dying, saying, like, okay, here are the pills, here are the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Some doctors actually inject the lethal injection or, provide the pill. And so that, like, think of it, the doctor, right? The doctor's primary responsibility is to preserve life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, what's the ethics there? Shouldn't a doctor be able to refuse
Mm-hmm.
MAiD if it goes against their ethics? And then so there's that, but also
Exactly.
you're right. People are going through various episodes in their lives, and they're very depressive episodes. I will be very open and honest. Just last month, this is very wild. I lost I think it's $150,000. Um,
Jesus, I'm so sorry.
I put money
Did you
down on
click a
a
link on a Facebook link? Because don't do that, man. Don't do that. Don't.
right? Like,
Sorry,
yeah, I
not to
know
make
there was
light of
like
it,
this
but
bot, this bot that called me and said, "Wire me money." I said, "Sure."
sure.
No,
Mine was very similar to that. No, I'm just kidding. No, just kidding.
yeah, there you
And
go.
that's fair. Yes. Thank you for being honest and sharing.
No, yeah, like, and so, I put money down on a pre-construction condo, couldn't qualify. It was a
Mhm.
whole thing, and I lost my deposit, and it was very, traumatic, shameful, guilt-ridden, and it just
Totally.
caused me so much trauma. And I worked through all of that December, January, February, and now I can openly talk about it.
Good for you.
I would, if I could, I would share with you the pages and pages of journaling I did on it,
Good
single
for you.
space, like just writing out oh my God, what the heck? But
Yeah.
so what I did, and this is something maybe I can leave in the show notes, but like
Mhm.
I read Edna Foa's book, Stop Obsessing. And in the back of that book, there were a series of worksheets if you're going through a very traumatic experience to work through it. So one of the exercises was talk out your episode in as much detail as possible
Mhm.
and play that back every day, morning and night, until it doesn't cause you anxiety.
It's like
And
facing
that was
it.
exposure therapy, right? So like
Hmm.
the first time I did it, I couldn't make it through two sentences.
I get
And
that.
my heart was racing, nervousness, goosebumps, like every physical sensation. And then every day and I would track, like I made it to sentence 3, I made it to
Hmm.
sentence 4.
Hmm.
And like over time, yeah, it became normal. And I can actually sit here, Brandy, and talk about
Hmm.
it. That
Yeah.
wasn't the case like 60, 90 days ago. So
No.
all that to say, there are times in life where you will go through things, as we all will. And we know now that there's a lot of proven methods to make it through it. Now, the challenge is finding those methods
Hmm.
because, if you don't find it, I can understand how you can spiral, you
Yeah.
know, and people, I don't want to know the statistics on this, but I would hate to know how many people ended their lives over things that were uh so vapid, right? Like
Yeah. Totally.
their partner didn't do something, and they didn't feel loved, or their
Hmm.
parents said something, or something that, like, lost their job, they lost money. Like,
Hmm.
all of these things can be replaced, and
Yes.
it's not the end of the world. But I'd hate to know that statistic, because that would really, like, break my heart, because we've all been there. We've all been in between jobs and losing money and
Totally.
losing relationships and losing partners, and
Yep.
we all know that there are ways through this.
Hmm.
um and that's what doctors should be telling
Working
patients.
with.
It's like they should be providing patients with hope, not with, by the way, Brandy, you're going through something, like, I, there's an easy way out, kind of thing.
There
It's
is.
like,
Yep.
that's kind of creepy. I don't know.
Yeah. And is that the easy way that they're just making it's like
Yeah,
almost like a creepy salesperson that's just like,
yeah,
here's a problem, I'm gonna give you a solution, but you don't actually have that problem. But I make you
right.
think you have that problem. For one, also
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. And I totally get that, right? Like there's moments
Mhm.
where you go through stuff and you're like, even as you're going through it, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to go through this. It's gonna get ugly and I'm just gonna let myself go through it. And that's
Have to
great.
go through it.
Excuse
Yeah,
me. But then
yeah,
as you go through them, you start to understand that this is life, and what can I
Yeah.
learn from this? How can I get better from this? And to your point,
Yeah.
if that option was there for you and you didn't read that book and you weren't so aware of your emotions and who you are as an individual now, putting that in front of anybody when they're most vulnerable and feel like they don't have any worth or value because they just lost that through their job, their spouse, their children,
Yeah.
many of the money, whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't feel your value. But then when you start understanding your value and that you just go through things and you stop identifying as these big bad things that happen to you as who you are and you're a failure.
Right.
You're not a
Yes.
failure. You're coming to life and living experiences. I had my car repossessed when I was 19 years old. Holy fuck,
Mm.
did that teach me about finances at a very young age? Because I didn't
Right.
know about them and I learned quick. And so
Yeah.
now, as a 37-year-old, I'm not saying I'm better, but I'm definitely like understand that and can speak about
Yeah.
it. But I was super embarrassed when I first moved. I was like, oh, I just put my car in the garage. That's where it is. And I'm moving to Alberta. And it was like, no, bitch, you got it repossessed. But, I
Oh,
can talk about
wow.
that now, but at the time you can't. And
Yeah.
to your point, when people don't know that there's a way to fix it, or you're just told you're broken and you can't fix it, you're
Yeah.
just wrong. You're chemically wrong. You're born wrong. That
Yeah.
is so disservice to humanity, where it's like, you're not broken. Things
Mhm.
happen to you. And there's ways through different modalities that'll be unique to every
Yeah.
individual that you can move forward if you want to or believe that you are worth that.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it, if you don't see it, you don't have that support group, it is
Yeah.
so hard to get out of it. And I'm
Yeah.
not blaming victims.
Mhm.
Like, people, let's say, that are homeless, they don't want to be there, but most of them
Mhm.
don't have the support groups, the people to
Mhm.
teach them the things, And so
Yeah.
it's so easy to go to those people and be like, oh, we're just going to buy you a house and put you in a home. And it's like, that's not
Mhm.
what they need help with. They need help. They need a support group. You can't just throw money at them. Like, things are
Yeah.
so much more complex, but there are still solutions. You're
Yeah.
just throwing money and blanket statements at all these things. Oh, you got a problem? MAiDs. You're homeless. Well,
Yeah.
this here's a house, but we're not going to address the majority of why people are on the streets is their mental health issues, right? But instead,
Right.
we're just going to offer these vapid, like, surface level things when it comes
Yeah.
down to maybe just one fucking even booklet that could change their entire lives. Why isn't that being
So true.
given? Why isn't
So
that being
true.
shared? Doesn't make more money, does it?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I do want to make sure that people listening also know that I did interview Dying with Dignity Canada, and they
Good
did
for
walk
you.
me through some very harrowing stories of people who've
Of
gone through a lot
course.
and have
Totally.
just decided, what, this is the best decision for me. There was a story of an individual. So here in Ontario, we had the Walkerton, Ontario, like the E. coli outbreak,
Mm,
where the water in Walkerton was contaminated with E. coli because I can't remember the reason. I think there was like filter issues. Anyways, this person drank like a liter of water, not realizing what was happening, and this person who's very athletic went from like that to like all types of health issues
mhm,
happening right after,
mhm,
losing a sight in one of their eyes, and then eventually saying like, I don't want to live like this. This
mhm.
is painful, kind of thing. It's
Yeah,
just like agony, physical agony every day,
totally.
living like that. But this is the issue that I have with MAiD being offered to that person. It's like, we're making these we're making these final decisions for people without taking into consideration the complexity of their health
Mhm,
situation, and
mhm,
just saying, okay, well, there's an easy way out. It's like, well, hang on, like, there are ways you can alleviate the pain, whether that's physical exercise, getting out
mhm.
in nature, breathing. I wish we had mountains in Ontario like you do
Yeah,
in
no doubt.
BC. Like, just
Yes,
being in
fair.
mountains is like, apparently it's so
So nice.
therapeutic, right? Yeah,
Yes.
like,
I see them out my
so,
back window. Like,
oh man, like all
safe.
we get are
Sorry.
like hills,
I know.
hills,
I feel that.
really nice hills.
I
Yeah,
lived in Alberta for a bit. I get it.
yeah, yeah. Well, Ontario's not anything like that,
No, that's
so
fair. But you're so
yeah,
right though. Like, why is that just all of a sudden? And yes, of course, if that's what you want, the options. But again,
sure,
just giving them that option and not saying, hey, it might not be easy, but there might be other
yeah,
ways. Do you want to try this first? That's what I mean. Like, can it be the final act? Can it be the
yeah,
final option? Does it have to be the initial? Right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying what they do is wrong or bad. And absolutely, I know friends that have had family. Like, my friend, when I was 21 years old, he was in a terrible accident. He would have been a complete vegetable, and that wasn't him. And we all
mhm,
got to say our goodbyes, and we all agreed that he shouldn't, carry on with
yeah,
life. That wasn't Cody, and we all knew that.
right,
So
right,
I understand that. But again, like, when I hear stories like Kristen, where she is alive, she's had her surgery, she's had chemo, it's not been
yeah,
easy for her, but she's
yeah,
100% alive, and now she is screaming from the rooftops of what's going
yeah,
on. She
right,
has a purpose here. Could you imagine if she was not, and she didn't have a husband that fought for her family, and they were just like, maybe that is the best option, or she didn't have
Yeah.
the states as the option and she had to wait, like to tell someone that they can't get treatment and that this is maybe a better option for them, to me is just like, that's not
Hmm.
that's we don't need to market this. This isn't a business venture
Yeah.
that we need to market. It just needs to be something that's available with the kindest of care and consideration. And from
So
reading
true.
this article, it was just kind of saying they want to give more time for people, the provinces, to prepare how to support this. To me,
Yeah.
that's not saying we're not sure if this is a good idea. It's saying we're just giving people more time to like normalize this. So we're going to spend the next year propagandizing this in the way that we want it, to make it less people talk about it or ask questions, or be okay to ask questions and have the uncomfortable. That's what I feel like is happening with this topic a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that, you know what, I agree. I do think though that time gives us more time
Mm-hmm.
to, write our MPs, write Pierre, and be like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, you're most likely going to be prime minister next year. Like, this is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have to look at the research. We have to make sure
Right.
the research is being part of any decision that the government makes. We can't turn a blind eye to what psychologists, psychiatrists uniformly have been writing to government saying you cannot include mental disorder as
Mm-hmm.
a potential track for medical assistance in dying,
Mm-hmm.
because we know from our own firsthand experience, on top of what the research shows, these are episodes in people's lives. They can get better. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing terminal about many, what, again, I hate to say mental illness, but mental health
Like a word.
conditions.
Yep.
um, they are people are able to work through them. Ben Mulrooney recently had an interview on CTV about the passing of his father, Brian Mulrooney, and he said he was very emotional, and he said grief. And this is actually what Justin Trudeau said to him. Sometimes I wish this side of Justin Trudeau would come out, because
Mm-hmm.
he did lose his father, and
Fair.
he was born into a family that was always under the microscope. But
The Castro
Justin.
family? I'm just kidding. Sorry, I had to.
Too easy, eh? Too easy.
It was easy, low hanging fruit. I had to grab it.
Low hanging fruit. Yeah, yeah. Exactly, right. But Justin Trudeau said to Ben, he said, grief is the price we pay for love.
Mhm.
And man, that hit hard for me.
It's
I'm like,
beautiful.
damn, that's so insightful. Yeah, it's like
Yeah. Weird. He has
grief.
a heart. Just kidding.
Yeah, he does have a heart.
I'm
He does
just kidding. I'm
care,
kidding. I know.
right?
I know.
He does care.
I
And
don't
like,
I
I
don't
wish,
think as a core he's a terrible person. I think it got to his head, and there's a
yeah,
lot of people around him in his echo chamber that aren't,
yeah,
there's too many yes men around people like that, right? Where it's just like,
100%.
nah, bro, you're kind of hurting people.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
where you have to have the uncomfortable conversation, because if you don't, you can't say to them, to the prime minister, you're just like, listen,
yeah,
like he came here and they asked him about the Barbie movie, and I was like, what? Could we ask him about why there's so many homeless people in Kelowna? Could we ask where the
yeah.
support for, anyway, sorry, not to divert, but it's
No,
beautiful to
no,
see, and it makes me also sad that those things are blocked, because it's like,
yeah,
that's important too. I can hate him and also appreciate that he went through that experience. He absolutely can understand what
right,
that's like, and I can
yeah.
understand that his life isn't easy too, and there must be some hard things, whether I believe he should have a harder life or not, like I can
Mhm.
still understand that he's a human, and I think
Yeah,
we get away from that a lot. So good point to that he still can have some insightful moments, although a lot of
100%.
stupid ones.
Exactly. Definitely. You're right. And again, I think that that's my real worry. I think that the
Mhm.
moment government turns its back on research, and I just think we're going down a dark path at that point, and it's
Yep.
no longer about what's out there. There's some political or other, like, shadow motive that's happening
Mhm.
here, and that lends itself to conspiracy theories about, like, oh well, clearly the government wants us to die. Like,
Yes.
clearly there's a population control. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's that's the danger of allowing more tracks and easier access to MAiD. It just fuels conspiracy theories to be like, yeah, the government
Mhm.
just wants to kill us out. Like, that's
Yep.
the reality. And
Yes.
I think you're right. Like, it's very easy to access, not easy, it's very accessible in some cases to access MAiD. And
Mhm.
that's something that I think we as a country need to wrestle with. And it's very similar. And people can grill me over the coals for this, but like, abortion in Canada
100%.
needs to be discussed. Like,
Yes,
we're
it
the
does.
only G7 country, I believe, with no laws on abortion. And
Mhm.
there it will always be a divisive topic. That means that
Mhm.
by having no laws on abortion, we are automatically at least ignoring 50% of the population.
Yes,
Um, because
agreed.
I don't know how many Canadians would agree with, abortion at any stage of pregnancy,
Mhm.
multiple access to abortion, youth accessing abortion. I don't know
Mhm.
how many Canadians would agree to that.
Do you, to interject there, that I just found out, and I don't know about this in any other province, but at
Mhm.
schools now,
Yeah.
they're pushing for young women to be able to get abortions without their parents' knowledge through the schools.
Wow.
And when you go as a
Wow.
concerned parent to talk to them about that, they won't let you talk to the nurses. They won't let you talk to them because it is not okay for the parents to be involved in that. So I do want to bring that, like, yes, I understand there needs to be a place, but again, to your point, to what degree are we doing this? Again, as someone who's had miscarriages, who's lost baby in a different way, I know the trauma
Right.
that comes with losing a baby, whether you choose to or not, and that is never
Mhm.
talked about. Women that get abortions do not have informed consent of what it does to themselves mentally, physically,
No.
what that does in their future. I know women that have had it 10, 20 years ago that are now starting to feel the repercussions of that happening because they're starting to
Yeah.
open up the trauma of that for not being properly supported. But the
Mhm.
minute you well, the minute you say that, you are now like, oh, that you're not, sorry, you're what's the slur for when you are pro-life? Like all of a sudden it's like pro-life is a bad thing. Like, I'm sorry, yes, I
Yeah.
want everyone to live. I want you in a bad situation to be able to get out of that. I'm not saying that. Again, two truths can exist at the same time. And again, if you're a person that's like, fuck MAiDs, it doesn't exist, but you're like, yeah, abortion, like,
Mhm.
okay, again, so like
Definitely.
individual, where does life begin? And everyone's gonna
Yeah.
have a different conversation. To me, that's at conception, and people can hate me all they want to, and that's totally fair. Again,
Yeah.
I come from a different lens of losing those things that, like, so like
Yes.
to be vulnerable in that, and I've said this before. How do you think women that can't have babies feel when these abortionists and activists say that that is just a clump of cells, while you
Mhm.
were on the ground reeling that you didn't get to even have a chance to meet that clump of cells? As an
Right.
individual and a woman, and these are fellow women, these aren't, so people are like, oh, men have no rights. Well, I'm sorry, those men are sitting there watching those women have miscarriages and watching you say that you shouldn't care about that clump when she is in
Mhm.
pieces on the floor because that
Oh,
clump of cells didn't manifest into a baby, or however you want to say
yeah.
it. So there's different
Yeah.
parts of the conversation that I feel like I don't even get to say, because the minute I say it, I'm anti-woman,
Yeah.
and I hate women, and I'm like, all right. Okay. So very yes, I think that is something that we should open up, and I'd love to have you back on the
Yeah.
show to talk about that more one day, because I do come from
Yeah.
a different point of view where I've had the loss, and I still
Mhm.
want that for women, and equally feel bad that all those babies are aborted, or maybe babies that I could adopt, and adoption is so hard, and maybe one way we could talk about that, like the adoption laws and abortion, and
Mm.
like how you can surrogacy. There's no laws to surrogacy and vetting people, so any bad person can get a surrogate baby, but to adopt a baby is like, you have to go through all of this, right? It's very,
Yeah.
very strange, but it's like, again, there's people that are just looking at their lens. Maybe they had a traumatic experience, and they had an abortion, so they feel that they're justified. And you're right, that doesn't mean that there's not another part of the conversation where people
Yeah.
are over abusing it and treating women like me less
Mhm.
than, or you know what I mean, not understanding our part. But I don't go around screaming at everyone saying, yo,
Yeah.
you don't get to talk about your abortion because I have miscarriages, again, because that's my own
Yes.
trauma to go through, right? it's
Right.
it's such a
So
wild,
true.
I've gone through so many weird things the last couple years with that, of trying to be
Oh
like,
my gosh.
stay in your lane in your experience,
Mhm.
without, but also wanting to be like, this is, why can't I bring, you can bring your abortion to the table. Why can't I
Yeah.
bring this to the table in this sense?
100%. 100%. And I totally agree. I think that, I mean, these are very uncomfortable, very personal topics, but
Mm.
the absence of talking about it has led us down a path in Canada to not having any abortion laws, because it's like the thing
Don't
that
you
no
dare.
politician wants to, yeah, don't you dare talk about it. It's like, well, that's not good. That's never
No.
good. Like on a microcosm, that's never good for a relationship. Like if your partner really does something that annoys you or bothers you, or something that you just don't agree with, the worst thing is to sweep that under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, but your partner's going to respect you for it, I think.
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
would I would
You
respect,
should. You should.
right?
And you should be
Yeah.
asking why. Like that, and I get it. We're not perfect. No one's
No.
perfect. You're gonna have fights, but at the end, it should be able to be like, hey, I need to approach you about a subject I'm maybe
Yeah.
not comfortable about, but I think we should talk about it. You know, me
Yeah.
and my spouse actually play this game. It's called Paired. It's a paired app. Um,
Mhm.
and every day you're given questions on the free one. And it could be anywhere from like sex questions to what's your favorite thing, or do you care if your spouse calls you funny names in public, or, it's
Nice.
a monthly
I like that.
check-in. Like, did you guys talk about money this month? Did you talk about your health?
Nice.
Like it's a really interesting, and it opens up these conversations because we've been
Yeah.
together 7 years and we're still learning about each other. And this
That's
app
amazing.
like triggers to
Yeah.
ask these questions, like are hard questions. And before I used to get so like mad and like, oh, I don't want to answer this because like
Yeah.
it's going to open up maybe something I wasn't ready to talk to. But it
Yeah.
honestly opened us up to so many uncomfortable conversations that there
Mm.
is no uncomfortable conversations anymore. It's like, I'm
Nice.
going to answer this honestly because I want him to know how I'm feeling about this. And I'm so glad for
Mhm.
this prompt of like something that's so minor, like what's something, let's just say that your spouse gets upset with you about that you can't stand. Me, it's don't fucking tell me how to do the dishes because when I was younger, like, and not to shade my stepdad, but he got very
No.
upset when I didn't do the dishes properly, and he got very upset. And
Mm.
one time I do remember him like throwing the whole rack of dishes. And so
Oh,
there
wow.
was a very triggering thing for me as a child
Yeah.
to then be as an adult being told like, well, if you did the dishes properly, which 100% fucking
Wow.
accurate, BT
Yeah.
dubs, he is 100% right in his like, you are a terrorist when you put your shit in the dishwasher. Like I am. I'm awful. But
Yeah.
I didn't understand that that childhood feeling habit was manifesting to him. And I'd be like, fuck you,
Yeah.
you piece of shit. And I would get so mad at him. And he's
Yeah.
like, over the dishwasher? Like World War III? What is this coming from?
Yeah.
And then I was
Yeah.
like, it dawned on me and I was like, oh my God, it's because when I was a child, I was felt micromanaged when it came to dishes. And as an adult, I'm like, you can't tell me what to do. And here's my spouse trying to tell me what to do, even though he's right. Like,
Yeah.
but I projected that on him, but that caused fights. And now that I know that, and he knows that, for one, you don't say it anymore. No, I'm just kidding. More, it's more like, oh, I'm gonna try and help support you so we can do the dishes more, so you don't feel
Yeah.
overloaded to cram them in. It's like a conversation about why did you get upset about the dishwasher? Well, babe, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm doing it a lot more than you are, and so I'm
Right.
cramming stuff in to get it done. Maybe if, and but in the fight, I'd be like, you're fucking lazy and you don't help me with the dishes, and that's not what I meant.
No.
Like not at all. But having those conversations, the uncomfortable, is so
Mhm.
important in friendships, in family, in your spouse and work relationships as well. And so
Agreed.
I hope that as a collective, we can all start doing this more. Hopefully, we can lead by example. And there's been
Yes.
plenty of times where you can agree to disagree or just be like, I love this point. Let me add this. And I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
never thought about that, Christopher. That's a good point. And I just,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean there's disrespect because I have a different thought of you, or it's like, oh, we can learn so much more. Don't we want to
Sure.
have big brains? I do. Give me all the
Yeah.
details. I want all the
Give me
details
a
so I can come
yeah.
to and I like playing devil's advocate. Play devil's advocate with yourself. I think that's the biggest self check. Like, I think this, what's the opposite?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Exactly.
maybe I could shift a little bit more to understand your perspective, not being so, you're this side of the politics or you're this side of the politics. No, we're
Yeah.
people. We're people.
There Yeah, like there's a great quote like friction makes diamonds or gems or something. Like no gem can be formed without friction. And it's true. It's like
Totally.
think of your life as like this adventure and
Mhm.
you're going to meet people you disagree with and those individuals as long as it's done respectfully and not done to beat you over the head and force you to change your opinion, but if it's done respectfully, they enrich your life. They enrich your
Yes.
conversations. They're nice people to have around because they're
Yes.
respectful in how they disagree. They're
Mhm.
respectful in how they share their disagreements.
Yeah.
But if you're going to beat someone over the head, no one responds well to that. And
They don't
so I
absorb
think
it.
that, right, exactly. So I think that in Canada, my goal,
Hmm.
and I'm sure your goal as well, is as we grow our podcasts and our following and our reach,
Hmm.
it's the uncomfortable conversations that need to happen being normalized
Yes.
um, on university campuses, in our
Hmm.
media, in our day-to-day interactions. I want us to normalize this, and
Hmm.
like they're going to be uncomfortable. I did a podcast series on capital punishment, and there were so many
Mm.
people who reached out. I'd love to talk about it. I'm not coming on your podcast to discuss the merits of capital punishment. It's
Yep.
like NCTV did a poll, and 51% of Canadians want capital punishment in Canada, which is crazy. And it's
Interesting.
something that people don't know. Like, I would vouch to guess most Canadians
I
would
did
say
not know that.
yes. to right? And like maybe they think about it in very extreme cases like Paul Bernardo, Robert Pickton, you know,
Totally.
being
But
like,
where
you
does
know
that
what?
lead?
Right.
They get to
Exactly.
decide. What
They
does this
get to
online
decide.
harm thing? Like they and
Right.
to right back to our very first point, they deemed the truckers convoy to the point where they triggered the absolute most intense fucking act in Canadian history. No one pulled that. So like what decades since it's been used?
Yeah.
Because he that was that much violence. And I'm sitting here watching my girlfriend hand out Tim Hortons cards to a bunch of truckers while they're jumping around like having
Yeah.
waffles and syrup and bouncy castles, and I'm like, this is what the government is deeming as like a massive threat to
Yeah.
Canadians. So when you look at that and you look at the truckers convoy, that's why I wanted to talk about it, and you see the verbiage with MAiDs, you
Yeah.
see the verbiage change. This is propaganda. This is what people say the media lies, and that there's a grand stage and agenda. You know, one thing that I feel very sad is things get trapped to like conspiracy theories, and then people are like automatically thinking of like Bigfoot and these crazy like all of these, and it's
Mhm.
like no. They do that so that you don't look into it, you know.
Yeah.
So again, you might not think that chemtrails are real. That's okay. But can we at
Yeah.
least come to the agreement that this much traveling and flying, not from everyday human beings, all the people that go to these G7 meetings, like there,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like we can agree that that is not good for our health. So can we at least come
Yeah.
to that? But the minute you start going like every single thing in the world is a conspiracy theory, then no one's going to take you seriously. And this is where I
Mhm.
for agree with you. I want to have those, but I also want to bridge the gap between both sides. I want to open the conversation of like unvaccinated to vaccinated. Let's
Yeah.
say, you know, different like, you know, blacks and whites or colored people, like men versus women, like actually not men versus, but like having those
Mhm.
conversations of bridging the understanding that we're actually
Yeah.
all human. These
Yeah.
things might identify us uniquely, but we're still humans. Let's come together because everyone has merit and everyone is truly coming from a good place. We
Mhm.
just get so absorbed in social media and these labels that then we're different,
Yeah.
but we're not. We are, but you know what I mean? Like not in a way that we need to be mad at each other, in a way that we can
No.
learn and grow from each other. Like
Yeah.
I want to learn, like teach. I don't want to just eat whatever what's I'm stereotypically supposed to eat. Tim Hortons, I don't know, whatever. But like I want to go to a different country and try the different food, even though that might be
Yeah.
different. And I want to learn different dances and different languages from other people. I don't
Yeah.
think that doing that, it's like I'm a cultural appropriating, like, and then people
No.
just get scared to be, and they get scared
Yeah.
like you said, the students, they're supposed to be coming together, but it actually separated them more. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, we tried it didn't work, let's try something else now. Okay, like
Right.
I think the data is
Yeah.
showing, like, let's go back to, you know, what we know and what we're seeing, and like correlation isn't always causation, I get that, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's value in that as well, right? So that's
Exactly. It's kind of
this
like
is sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you're totally right. It just reminds me of like as you were talking, just reminds me of like the analogy that I could think of is like a toddler walking around and, you know, puts his hand on the stove, burns him. It's like, oh man, I'm never touching that again.
Yep.
I think what we're doing with society is we're bubble wrapping that toddler's every limb so that no matter what the toddler touches, it's like nothing can
It's
ever
fine.
hurt that toddler. And it's like, what is that teaching our young people? You need to
Mhm.
kind of like, you know, dance with fire to get burned to know that it's fire, you know, and
Yes.
like
Yep.
not,
You have to make
fuck around,
mistakes.
find out, like
Yes, I
fuck
love it.
around, find out, you know, like
I
you need to find out as a toddler, like that
you
stove is
do.
freaking hot, you know,
Yes.
like
And I have an unpopular opinion that I don't believe that we shouldn't shame and judge. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's levels of it, obviously,
Yeah,
like, you know, what
sure.
people do in their own bedrooms and stuff. But like at the same time, like in my episode before, a couple before this, maybe two before this, yes, I was talking about like feederism and death feederism. Now, listen, I'm not going to sex shame, kink shame, but do you know what that is?
No, no.
Feederism?
I was just about to
Okay,
no.
so feederism is a fetish where people get off on feeding others. And there gets to a point where
Wow.
there's an extreme
Like, are they
of
naked or are they just like just
doesn't
feeding each
nope,
other?
just feeding them, just a person. So
Wow.
it could be someone that's, let's say, bulimic and doesn't want to eat, but and
Oh,
sees people enjoy eating food. Or there's this other kind of like phenomenon with it where it's like, if you can't move, I control you. If I can make you a certain
oh
way,
wow.
people won't be attracted to your mind. I have control.
Oh
So
wow.
what I've learned is some of these, like, let's say, we'll just say some of these women, they don't really get very many compliments before. They felt like they didn't get any, maybe because they're in a larger body and they just never accepted it or heard it. So then all of a
Mm.
sudden these people with this fetish come in and they start
Mhm.
telling them they're beautiful, which I'm not saying they're not, and
Right.
that they're eating and all of that, and like really manipulating, just like as any kind of cult leaders do. And then
Mm.
they get this love bomb, and they're like, oh my god, like I finally found it. This is it. These are the people. And then they
Yeah.
all of a sudden are hundreds of pounds overweight. They now have all these
Yeah.
issues. Now they don't want them to go to the hospital because the doctor's going to tell you to lose weight, and I don't want that. Like these are stories, you can
Wow.
look them up. I'm not making this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, again, I you want to feed each other and do whatever you want in your bedroom, honey. I don't give a fuck. But
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
taking someone's self control away from them by love
Yeah.
bombing and manipulating them, that's where I have a problem, right? So if we
Mhm.
weren't to shame at
Yeah.
all to
Mhm.
dangerous behaviors, or be like, maybe you shouldn't do that, if we're not checking each other and each other's like industries or spaces or whatever, I feel like
Yeah.
that's where extremism is born, and then it's not checked, just like your point to
Right.
abortion. That
Yeah.
now we've got to this stream where people could just go in there as like it's a birth control, when it's actually a very sacred, important moment that a woman should be
Mhm.
valued and supported through, not just
Yeah.
put through as a number or viewed as such. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where I feel like it's we have to have responsibility to the people. Like, so for you, you need to hold men accountable. I need to hold women accountable. I
Definitely.
need to call them out on their behaviors of what I'm seeing they're hurting, so that
Yeah.
we're calling each other out, right? We need to have
Yeah.
that. There's just a very fine line with that, where it's like calling people out to being bullying and asserting what your thoughts and opinions are. I think,
Yeah.
and that's like what sin and not sin, right? There's going to be a fine
Yeah.
balance, but just ignore everything and give everyone trophies and say
Yeah.
everyone is amazing the way they are, or you're born in the wrong body. Like there's some weird things that we got to be careful with. Progression, I think, is what I'm trying to get to,
Sure.
and having respect for others while also making sure we're not fucking with the bounds of reality here. Cuz
Yeah.
there's some
Exactly.
tomfoolery happening here in Canada,
Yes.
especially with policies and stuff, guys. Pay attention. And I will say, please
Yeah.
follow like Christopher's podcast, because one thing I love about you is that I'm kind of all over the place. Like I dip into
Mm.
this and then I dip out and do other things.
No.
But
No,
what
it's
I love
okay.
about you is that you're very focused on like our current environment. So guys, please go
Yeah.
follow Christopher on Open Minds Pod on Instagram. You're
Yeah.
available. Your podcast is available all every place that I am, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Are you on
Yeah.
Rumble too? Do you have Rumble as well?
I don't, and so many people are telling me to get on Rumble, and I
Mm.
should. I really should, but
I
as
mean,
we know,
it's a lot,
it's
man.
it's a
Like
lot.
it's
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, and I just started a new YouTube too, because my last one I just got a strike for bullying, cyberbullying Hollywood.
Oh my God, who's making up these rules? Cyberbullying Hollywood? All of
Yeah,
Hollywood you've cyberbullied?
it
Like,
was the episode was about Hollywood and just talking about the weird shit we found in Hollywood, and I got
ah,
striked and it got taken down because it said cyberbullying and harassment.
oh my God.
I don't think Aaron Carter's mom was watching that episode, but maybe she was. I don't know. 94, and I'm on episode we're 172. And they went all the way
Jesus.
back to 94 and striked me. So I had to start a new YouTube, because my first launch would have been complete. I couldn't upload, so I had to start a whole new YouTube, because which has no followers now. Only had 69, but now has none, because I made fun of Hollywood. And I talked about chemtrails. I talked about bioengineering in one. I talked about COVID vaccine. I talked about my girlfriend said that she thinks her dad passed away from the vaccine. And all five of those have been taken down. And I've had for just
Oh my God.
strictly opinions. So we got to keep having these conversations. Please
Yeah,
keep doing what you're doing on your show. I will keep
me
doing what I'm
too.
doing. We will come
Yes,
back and do another episode. I do think it would be really cool to talk about like human rights and some of the
yes.
changes that we've had. Like I think a pro body, like the whole body my choice, body autonomy,
Yeah.
bodily autonomy, that was
Yes.
the word.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think there's a lot of sections of that we could talk about, that the government is making words change, policies
Yes.
change, that will affect us as human beings, that we need to pay attention to. But this was
Agreed.
amazing episode. I'm going to cap it here,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, we'll do hour and a half. Fuck, man, we're at 2 hours. I
We're
love
at
this.
2 hours.
I said on my
Same time as
story,
last time, I think.
yeah, I did that on
Yeah.
my story. I was like, I'm actually concerned this could be a 3 to 4 hour podcast if I don't wrap this up. So we'll just say this is like part one of come back. But
Sure.
for you, just on these couple topics, if people are wanting to start diving into learning stuff, where's the best place that you go to pull your research to learn about Canadian like happenings? Where do you suggest?
So the one thing that I suggest to everyone I know is get a public library card. It is literally
Ooh,
the best investment you can ever make in yourself,
cool.
in your awareness. I've written the Toronto Public Library here numerous times to get even more widespread books and articles. But what I do is I go on our public library website, I go to our e-learning, and every province city has the same thing.
Cool.
Go to your e-learning research database, literally type in academic journals, Planned Parenthood if you're interested in abortion, anything you want, and literally
That's a big one.
read. Yeah, and you can read and you can organize by date if you don't want to read research from the 80s or 90s. But
Cool.
if you just read, just like the beauty of it, and I don't know if the libraries have caught on, but the beauty of that is there are researchers there that really put forward what would be considered controversial by mainstream media.
Cool.
And these are well researched academic articles. You can even, if you have Speechify, you can download the PDF, throw it in Speechify, listen to the articles while you're on your treadmill or going for your run. Apple has like this accessibility thing, which is great. It just reads, it's a screen reader, and it automatically flips the pages. Like there are so many ways, and it's all free. And
Yeah.
that's literally the best thing about your public library. So I would strongly recommend people check that out. It is the best resource for expanding your mind.
I would have never thought of that. That's an excellent suggestion. That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, and even
Thank
to
you.
that, like outside of like researching for Canada, I started using this app called Headway, and I've gotten
Yeah.
really bad at reading. I used to like my grandmother had a bookstore for like almost 10 years of my life. Like I got to read
Oh
Harry
wow.
Potter before a lot of people did. So I
Oh
was
wow.
very into reading, but as most of us, I
Yeah.
gotten attached to my phone and getting information
Yeah.
that way. So I struggle at reading. But Headway, what it does is it takes a bunch of different books, like say you want to learn about finances, achievements, like anything, habits. They take a book and they do the like top key 8 to 10 points and just summarize it for you. And so then if you
Whoa.
want to read more into the book, you can go and buy the book. So I read like Rich Dad Poor Dad in 15
Nice.
minutes, just the top topics of it, like all these books. So you can gain more knowledge, and slowly I listen to it and I read it at the same time, so I can slowly get back into the habit of reading and all
I
that kind
love
of
that.
stuff. So it's like
I
there's so
love
many
that.
things at our fingertips, and I think it's
Yeah.
like $30 for 3 months, so it's actually pretty cost effective. But then you can like dive into a book, and then you could decide, yeah, this is for me, no it's not, and then you can go buy it
Yeah.
and get into it. So anybody that's struggling with reading or researching, that's one thing that I'm so glad the podcast helped me get back into. But because we
Mhm.
watch so many videos, as I era video and audio podcast, I'm aware of the irony here. Is is like if you want to get back in and do those kind of apps and things like that, like go
Yeah.
to your public library where they do have a plethora of resources. You don't like that book, bring it back, switch it out. Like
Yeah.
I think the one thing that everyone is going to be very trendy and popular for the future is physical books and papers again, because digital can
Yeah.
be so fucking wrecked and messed
Yeah.
with, that people are going to have to go back to old school ways of physical
Yeah.
books and papers and researches, and that is the great way to do it. You have a library
Mhm.
everywhere, so use the resources that your taxes are paying for,
Correct.
minimally,
Correct.
right? Like that information
Mhm.
is here, guys. It's at our fingertips. There's no excuses
Mhm.
now for not knowing things. There might
Yeah.
be censorships, but you can make it through it. So Christopher,
Yeah.
amazing episode, my dude. Thank
This
you.
is amazing. Yes.
So good. I'm so glad we did this. We'll have to book one again for a couple months and see where we're at, and especially as we get
Yeah.
closer to the 2025 election. I think it's a good
Yes.
idea that we maybe dive in a little bit to some of the policies. Let's hold Pierre to the fucking fire. Let's see what
Yeah.
he's got. Let's be graceful and understanding that he's literally grabbing onto a dumpster fire of a country right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But if we all come together and do what liberals do and NDP, no one's holding them accountable. So
Yeah.
conservatives or people that are voting for him, let's do that and see what difference we can make. And if we can't, then we need to infiltrate all of it.
I
Can't
love
beat
it. No,
them,
you're right.
fucking join them, man. Like
There you go.
kick them out. Like that's where I'm at. Like make me prime minister. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know,
No,
like
which is.
we can make differences as individuals, and we start by healing and being
Mhm.
self-aware and knowing that we can make changes, like you said. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing all of your vulnerable stories, your opinions, everything.
No problem.
Guys,
No
make sure
problem.
to give Christopher a follow. If you're not following us on social media, do that as well. But until next time, bye. Thank you guys so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough for being here. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please give me a follow at the Be Real Babe podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and Pinterest. You can also find me on Facebook at the Be Real Collective. Until next time, guys, bye.